Chapter 41-Ruthless, Part 2. The three found a relatively remote place and sat down. Li Yi looked up at the sky. Dark clouds filled the sky was dark, and there was no sunlight. Unable to judge the time by the weather, Li Yi asked Tian Bao, how long until the execution time? Tian Bao has been in the land of rain for many years, so he must know how to tell the time in the land of rain. Tian Bao also looked up at the sky, then calculated it silently, and finally said, there are still 20 or 30 minutes before noon. Li Yi was a little surprised. He looked up, not seeing the time at all. But Tian Bao raised his head, but could he tell the time? As expected of someone who has lived here. Looking at Li Yi's slightly surprised face, Tian Bao asked, Sir, do you need me to find a watch for you? No. In the world of Hokage, watches have been produced, but clocks, not watches. Otherwise, in this world, there will be no concepts of time, minute, and second. However, in today's world, clocks are very rare and extremely expensive. There is no need to go to great lengths to find the watch in order to get the exact time. The three fell silent. I don't know how long it took. Tian Bao suddenly opened his mouth and said, Sir, I know I shouldn't say something, but I can't help but say it. You want to persuade me to give up? Li Yi asked indifferently. That's right. Tian Bao nodded earnestly, and then explained, Sir, I advise you to give up, not for myself, but for you. I know that your lord is not only powerful, but also has many means, but if you do it here today, then you will always be wanted by the Rain country, and you will not be able to live in peace from now on. Quote. The country of rain may not have such great energy yet. Li Yi smiled lightly and said. If it is the wanted man in Konoha village, then Li Yi may really have to embark on a life of displacement from now on. But the country of rain is different. The land of rain is just a small country. So Li Yi is not afraid of its wanted at all. Seeming to hear the indifference in Li Yi's tone, Tian Bao couldn't help but feel a little anxious, and said again, Sir, it is said that for this execution, Lord Hanzo may appear in person. Hanzo of the Salamander, known as a demigod by the world, is extremely powerful. Therefore, after hearing Tian Bao's words, Li Yi's face also became slightly serious, nodded and said, This is indeed a trouble. Tian Bao's face brightened. If Li Yi can give up, then everyone will be happy. But at this moment, Li Yi added again, But I heard that Hanzo of the Salamander is extremely cautious. Ordinary people don't see him at all. He only locks himself in his safe house to ensure safety, so, shouldn't he appear in such public places? Hearing this, Tian Bao choked. Because Li Yi was right. For a time, Tian Bao couldn't think of refuting Li Yi's words. His mood was like an ant on a hot pot, and he was in a hurry. Violet stretched out her jade hand, patted Tian Bao's shoulder, and comforted in a low voice. Okay, don't think too much, the Lord must have his own plans, we trust the Lord. Li Yi couldn't hear the whispers of the siblings. He wasn't interested in listening either. In fact, he did have a plan, that is, to abandon the sister and brother. As long as he can successfully save Uchiha Makoto, then he can get a chance to evolve, and then use his unfamiliar flirting skills in his previous life to make Uchiha Makoto tempted and capture her heart, then he can get another chance to evolve. Other words, as long as he can save Uchiha Makoto, he has a chance to get 2 evolution chances. 2 chances to evolve. How precious. Even if you abandon this sister and brother, it will be worth it. In fact, Li Yi still has a conscience. After all, he never asked for the siblings to follow. However, this sister and brother even followed up without authorization. Therefore, Li Yi has no choice. Since the 2 of you are so dedicated, I can't live up to your kindness. Today's Li Yi is like this, black-bellied, ruthless, and will do anything to achieve his goals. The light rain fell from the sky, and most of the residents of the land of rain did not wear raincoats, because they had long been used to and adapted to the environment of the land of rain. There were more and more people around the execution ground, and it became more and more lively. The noise is like a wave, rushing wave after wave between the heaven and the earth. Li Yi narrowed his eyes, thinking about countermeasures. But at this moment, in the distance, 3 figures in black robes came over. It stands to reason that no one likes such out-of-the-way corners. Not only is it very far from the execution platform, but the angle is not good, and the execution platform can hardly be seen. Unless it's overcrowded, no one wants to come here at all. However, now, these 3 figures in black robes walked straight here. Goes, there are no silver 300 taels here. If it wasn't for a special purpose, like Li Yi and the others, they wouldn't come here at all. Therefore, Li Yi became curious about the identity of these 3 people. The 3 of them were not far from the 3 of Li and Yi. When Li Yi looked at them, they all turned their heads and looked at the 3 of Li Yi. To be precise, they were looking at Violet's. Seemingly feeling the gazes of these 3 eyes, Violet turned her head and looked at the 3 of them. Seeing Violet like this, Tianbao also turned his head to look at them. So, the trio on the opposite side, and the trio of Li Yi, began to look at each other. I do not know how long it has been. It's like a consensus has been reached. The 3 of them turned their eyes away, turned their heads, and stopped looking at each other. Violet's voice was very soft, like cotton, and said, among the 3, one is very troublesome, and his chakra is more than Tianbao. Oh, are you still a sentient ninja? Li Yi glanced at Violet in surprise. We Uzumaki, men, women and children, are born with the ability to perceive. Violet explained, however, because of the difference in training, the strength of our perception ability is also different. My father has trained me for a while, so I can perceive it slightly. So it is. Li Yi nodded. At the same time, he became interested in Violet's father. Not only teaching Violet the art of sealing, but also teaching Violet the perception ability, he must be a very powerful character. At this time, Violet continued, besides, that person gave me an extremely ominous feeling. An ominous feeling? Li Yi frowned. Not only was the man extremely high in chakra, he also felt ominous, and most importantly, the man seemed to be interested in Uzumaki Violets. It should be them. Glancing at the 3 people not far away again, Li Yi thought to himself. Chapter 42-Insulting and Slandering, Part 3. When Tianbao and Violet didn't follow, Li Yi was still a little worried about how to save Uchiha Makoto. The execution ground here is not only heavily guarded, but Hanzo of the Salamander may also be there in person. No matter what means he uses, I am afraid it will not work. But Tianbao and Violet actually followed. Therefore, Li Yi has a plan in his heart. To be precise, it is a last resort. That is to sacrifice Tempo and Violet. As long as Uchiha Makoto appears, then Li Yi will let Tianbao and Violet shoot. And Li Yi took advantage of the chaos to rescue Uchiha Makoto and escaped with Uchiha Makoto. This process is very simple to say, but once it is implemented, whether it is Tianbao, Violet, or Li Yi, they will face life-threatening. If one is not good, I am afraid that all 3 of them will meet the King of Hell. So, this is a last resort. However, apart from this last resort, Li Yi couldn't think of any other way. In fact, originally, Li Yi did not intend to go into this muddy water. However, after weighing it up, Li Yi still came. 2 tasks, at least 2 opportunities to evolve, how tempting. Is the so-called wealth and risk-seeking. Taking this risk and seeking this kind of wealth, Li Yi felt it was worth it. Of course, if there are other better strategies, then Li Yi will not hesitate to give up this last resort. After all, he still has a conscience. Li Yi closed his eyes and thought about other countermeasures in his mind. I don't know how long. Boom. A bell tolled, low and melodious, resounded between this world. When the bell sounded, it seemed to have magic power, and when people heard it, they were instantly refreshed. Li Yi opened his eyes. but found that there were already people sitting around. 20 or 30 minutes ago, the surrounding area was still empty, and there was hardly anyone around. Now it is full of people. It can be seen how eagerly the residents of the Rain Country are looking forward to what will happen next. In this way, we are ruled out of suspicion. Li Yi smiled in his heart. If only the three of them are sitting here, then a fool can see that there is something wrong with the three of them. After all, everyone understands the truth of, there are no silver 300 taels here. Finally, Li Yi turned his head and looked at the entrance. There, 2 columns of ninjas walked in. They stepped forward with steady and powerful steps. Although they did not deliberately release their momentum, there was still an invisible sense of oppression that emanated from their bodies and permeated the world. In an instant, the originally noisy world quickly became quiet. The people who were closer to the 2 rows of ninjas were even more affected by this invisible sense of oppression. Tian Bao said, "These 12 people, known as the 12 Jonin of the Rain, are very powerful." 12 Jonins. Li Yi's hands, already dripping with cold sweat, clenched slightly. At the same time, after 12 Jonin appeared, he did not speak, but walked straight to the execution platform. Obviously, they are the guardians of this execution. Swish. Immediately afterwards, on the high platform, 2 figures wearing masks, holding a white-haired old man, appeared out of thin air. Time and space ninjutsu. Li Yi's pupils shrank slightly. To be able to appear on the high platform in an instant, it must be time and space ninjutsu. However, time-space ninjutsu is also divided into different types. The time-space ninjutsu used by the 2 should be similar to Horaishin's technique. As long as you mark one place, you can reach it instantly. After the white-haired old man came to the high platform, he coughed lightly and said, "Everyone, be quiet." Although his voice was not too loud, everyone present could clearly hear that old voice. Tian Bao's expression changed slightly and he said, "Sir, we are probably in some kind of barrier now." "Yes." Li Yi nodded. Logically speaking, the old man stood on the high platform and was so far away that when he spoke, everyone could not hear him. But in my heart, everyone present can hear it clearly. Obviously, they are all in a special enchantment now. Without permission, it may be difficult to leave this barrier. Tian Bao sighed and said in a low voice, "I didn't expect the Kingdom of Rain to be so meticulously arranged this time." "It makes sense," Li Yi said lightly. If it were Li Yi to be the leader of the Land of Rain, his approach would probably be more rigorous than Hanzo of the Salamander. Since it is to publicly execute people of the enemy country, it is necessary to be careful to prevent any accidents from happening. Li Yi was expressionless. To be honest, his heart was a little panicked now. Not only are there 12 Jonin watching the scene on the surface, but there must also be countless ninja guards behind the scenes. The most important thing is that the execution ground is now shrouded in a layer of enchantment. This place can be described as waterlogged. The enemy is arranged so closely, whoever it is, I am afraid they will be nervous. At this time, the old man on the high platform continued to speak and said, "In the past few years, our country of rain has followed the will of God and fought against the evil country of fire. However, the evil country of fire is like a maggot with a bone attached to it. In order to reduce this evil country and bring peace to this world, we have lost many relatives, friends, family members and even lovers. This is a string of insults, abuse, and slander against the Fire Nation." All in all, when the old man finished speaking, the Fire country has become useless. Li Yi cautiously. Li Yi's expression didn't change at all, and he didn't seem to care at all. The siblings breathed a sigh of relief. The old man on the high platform continued, "Everyone must have heard that a few days ago, our great Lord Hanzo personally took action and arrested 2 spies, and these 2 spies are the people of the Uchiha family in the Land of Fire." As the old man spoke again, the scene quickly became quiet, and then the old man continued, "Master Hanzo conforms to the will of the people, respects the will of the people, and pays attention to the people's feelings. Finally, After 3 days and 3 nights of sleepless thinking, Master Hanzo finally made a decision. It is to execute these 2 spies in public to boost the morale of our country. As soon as this word comes out, yo-hoo, 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 riot all over the place. Almost everyone was cheering and shouting, and the atmosphere at the scene was extremely exciting. In the shouting, the old man raised his hand and said domineeringly, "Bring those 2 spies up." Boom. The gate to the execution ground was opened. 2 columns of ninjas walked in. In the middle of the 2 rows of ninjas, 2 prison cars, one behind the other, with 1 person locked in each, slowly drove in. Li Yi immediately stared at it. Although the distance is far away, the real face cannot be seen clearly, but with the outline, Li Yi can also judge that the woman locked in the prison car at the rear is the current #1 beauty of Uchiha, Uchiha Makoto. Ask for silver ticket times 1,000 trillion times. Chapter 43-Hopeless Part 1. In the execution ground, it was dripping with light rain. Kill them, kill them, kill them. Almost everyone was shouting loudly, and the shouting was like a wave, resounding between the heavens and the earth, one after another, and the fiery atmosphere seemed to evaporate the rain on the top of the head. People in the land of rain, men, women and children, all hate the land of fire. Sure enough, it's Uchiha Makoto. Looking at the woman in the prison car from a distance, Lee narrowed his eyes resolutely. Makoto is not only the first beauty of the Uchiha clan, but also an extremely powerful ninja. She often goes to the Hokage office to pick up tasks, so Lee often met her in the village before and recognized her graceful silhouette. That is, the 2 sides never said a word. Uchiha Makoto is the arrogant girl of the sky, and Li Yi is a waste. The 2 are 1 heaven and 1 earth, how can they match each other? Li Yi can get to know Tsunade is because Li Yi has carefully planned a plan for a long time, and in the end, he almost got caught in a small life, so he succeeded in getting to know Tsunade. Waste and genius, like heaven and earth, are very different, and it is almost impossible for the 2 sides to contact each other. He knew Uchiha Makoto, but Uchiha Makoto didn't know him. "Sir, are we going to take action now?" At this moment, Violet looked at Li Yi and asked softly. Li Yi thought for a moment, then shook his head lightly. Understood. Violet just tapped her head and didn't ask any further questions. Li Yi squinted his eyes and thought about countermeasures. Now is the time when the other party is most vigilant. Not only the 12 Jonin on the stage are staring at the prison car, but there are so many powerful ninjas around the prison car. The most important thing is that there must be many strong men staring at the scene in the dark. Taking action now is no different from sending him to death for nothing. Therefore, if you want to save people, you must wait for a suitable time. At the same time, in the sky of banana peels, eggs, and stones, 2 prison cars drove slowly, and finally drove to the execution platform. Send these 2 sinners to the guillotine. On the high platform, the white-haired old man shouted domineeringly. Amidst endless cheers, the prison van was opened. A man and a woman on the prison van were dragged out by many ninjas. Then, these ninjas, without the slightest pity, even kicked them, and sent them to the guillotine. Li Yi watched this scene. Although they were far apart, Li Yi could still see that both of them were wearing silver handcuffs on their wrists. I'm afraid this pair of handcuffs is not easy. Li Yi narrowed his eyes slightly. Logically speaking, the 2 of the Uchiha clan would definitely fight to the death now. No one wants to die, how could the 2 of them die obediently? But now, neither Uchiha Makoto nor the other Uchiha clan man resisted, but were honestly kicked to the guillotine. That kind of appearance is like 2 puppets being manipulated. As the saying goes, if something goes wrong, there must be a demon, that's why Li Yi suspects this pair of handcuffs. I'm afraid it is precisely because of this that the 2 Uchiha clan people turned into puppets who were slaughtered by others. Another obstacle. Li Yi sighed inwardly. If you want to save Uchiha Makoto now, you must break through at least 5 obstacles. The first level, 12 Jonin above the torture platform. The second level, the dozens of powerful ninjas under the torture platform. The third layer, the guardian in the dark. The fourth layer, the enchantment shrouded around the execution ground. Fifth, handcuffs on Uchiha Mikoto's wrist. And more importantly, does the ghost know that there are other obstacles? This goddamn hope is a little slim. Sadness on Li Yi's face. Tianbao saw Li Yi's expression, although his face was still expressionless, but his heart was already happy. He was eager for Li Yi to give up this action. In his opinion, Li Yi is not saving people, but dying. Want to rob the court? Dream. Tianbao didn't want Li Yi to die, and he didn't want his sister to be buried with him because of this. If Li Yi can give up on this matter, then everything will be happy. At the same time, on the high platform, the white-haired old man waved his hand and said, "Everyone, do you want to watch these two sinners die with your own eyes? Think, think, think." Thousands of people shouted loudly, their voices tidy and loud, as if they could shake the sky. The white-haired old man said loudly again, "Long live Hanzo-sama! Long live Hanzo-sama! Long live Hanzo-sama! Long live Hanzo-sama!" Everyone agreed in unison, and the voice was extremely loud. This dogleg of Hanzo of the salamander is really brainwashed. It's just that a dogleg will always be a dogleg and will never be a master. Li Yi sneered in his heart, and the corner of his mouth also evoked a contemptuous arc. At the same time, the white-haired old man on the high platform said loudly again, "Executioner, pull the guillotine. Pull the guillotine, pull the guillotine, pull the guillotine." In the wave-like unison of everyone, the knife above the heads of the two Uchiha people was pulled high. The countdown to death begins now. The white-haired old man continued. 10, 9, 8, 7. Everyone on the audience stage echoed excitedly. 10, 9, 8, 7. When the count reaches 0, it is when the guillotine fell and cut off the heads of the two. But even so, neither of the two resisted, and it seemed that they had already accepted their fate. Sure enough, it's already under control. Li Yi narrowed his eyes slightly, and there was a trace of cold sweat on his forehead. With the countdown of the crowd, he also fell into a tangle. Are you going to make a move? If you make a move, you may succeed, or you may be wiped out, lose your wife and lose your army. If he doesn't shoot, Uchiha Mikoto will die, so he can't complete those two tasks. Everyone continued to shout in unison, 5, 4, 3. The countdown to death is about to reach the end. Li Yi's breathing seemed to have become rapid because of nervousness. Tianbao sat beside him, holding his hands, praying silently in his heart, "Sir, don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot." 2, 1. Finally, the countdown to death has come to an end. Release the knife. The white-haired old man waved his hand and shouted loudly. On the execution platform, two big men holding the guillotine abruptly let go. Swish, swish. With a sharp sound, two sharp guillotine knives fell from the sky and landed on the necks of the two Uchiha people. Tianbao has closed his eyes tightly, not because he is afraid of seeing the bloody scene, but because he is afraid of Li Yi's shot. Chapter 44-Tribulation Field Part 2. The knife fell quickly. The situation is at stake. Li Yi wants to make a move. Although the hope is slim, it is not without. However, just as Li Yi was about to give it a try, suddenly. Swish. A huge black shuriken shot out violently, spinning towards the execution platform. The ninja below the torture platform immediately shot, trying to block the lily sword. However, the black shuriken turned into 2, 2, 4, and 8. In an instant, there were dozens of them. Li Yi's pupils shrank slightly. Shuriken Shadow Clone Technique. Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu, A-level ninjutsu, is the ninjutsu created by the third-generation Hokage from the Shadow Clone, jutsu developed by the second-generation Hokage, that is to say, this is the ninjutsu of Konoha Village. Konoha Village appear here. Did the people from Konoha come? Because there are too many shurikens, and the speed of rotation is extremely fast and the lethality is extremely high, the dozens of ninjas below did not dare to touch them head-on, so they had to use a roundabout style to hit the shuriken from the side, so as to change the orbit of the shuriken. It has to be said that they are very smart, and they must have experienced hundreds of battles, so they can come up with this strategy in an instant. However, the shuriken not only revolved very fast, but also had a huge number of them, so they couldn't block them all, so there was a shuriken that slipped through the net and flew to the execution platform. However, there are 12 jonins guarding the execution platform, so as soon as these shuriken flew over the execution platform, the 12 jonin shot and beat these shuriken into shreds. Vulnerable. The 12 jonin let out a sneer of disdain, and then they all turned their heads and looked in the direction of the shuriken. There, originally sat 3 figures in black robes. But now, the 3 black-robed figures have disappeared. 12 jonin frowned. But at this moment, above the sky, a piece of white paper fell from the sky, followed the rain, and fell to the execution platform below. What is this? A jonin grabbed a piece of paper and frowned. Throw it away. On the other hand, jonin seemed to sense the clue and hurriedly shouted. But it was too late. Boom. A loud bang. Jonin, who was holding the piece of paper, was blasted out, and with a plop, he fell to the ground under the execution platform, and passed out. Was smashed. Seeing that one of his companions was dealt with in an instant, the other jonin swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Among the sheets of paper in the sky, a jonin shouted loudly, "Find a way to blow these pieces of paper away." However, no matter what they did, these pieces of paper seemed to have spirituality and could not be blown away at all. Instead, they stuck to the 11 jonin's body piece by piece. Quickly use the chakra bodyguard. 11 jonin, there is a relatively calm person, he said immediately. In fact, even if he didn't say it, the other 10 people were ready to use chakra bodyguards. Because they had never seen this kind of weird ninjutsu, they were a little confused when they were caught off guard, but after all, they were all jonin and experienced many battles, so they have already reacted. Therefore, the 11 people used chakra to cover the surface of the body, trying to resist the impact of the explosion. But the piece of paper did not explode, just quietly covered the surface of the 11 people. Because of this, none of the 11 people dared to withdraw the chakra, for fear that the piece of paper would suddenly explode, and they would be caught off guard. But at this moment, swish swish, hundreds of black shurikens flew from all directions and shot at the execution platform. Damn it, who the hell is that? How dare you make trouble here? The faces of the 11 people were a little gloomy, and they looked around. However, because they always cared about the outside of the execution platform, they did not notice that a black-robed figure appeared in the center of the execution platform out of thin air, as if teleporting in space. He stretched out his 2 palms and caught the 2 sharp guillotine blades that were about to fall on his neck, and then squeezed the guillotine blades into pieces with a light grip of both hands. All this, from the appearance of the shuriken to the shattering of the guillotine, although it is not short in description, it actually happened between the electric light and flint. Obviously, this is a planned and purposeful robbery field. And when the 11 jonin saw the black-robed man, the other party had already kicked the gate to shreds, and then held one person in one hand, like kicking a chicken, and was about to leave. Go away. 11 jonin shouted loudly, and one of the more daring jonin ran directly towards the black-robed man. But when he moved, the chakra on the surface of his body would flow, causing the amount of chakra to be thick and thin. Therefore, with a loud bang, a piece of paper on his body exploded violently, blowing him away. Go out. Far out of the 12 jonins, only 10 remain conscious. 10 people are a little depressed. What kind of ninjutsu is the opponent using? Like a detonator. But the detonator has no spirituality. But these pieces of paper sticking to the body are sticking on their own initiative, like living things, very spiritual. In fact, the principle of the paper is very simple, and it is not troublesome to crack it, but because of the sudden appearance, the 12 Jonin were caught off guard, so they are now in a passive situation. As for the dozens of ninjas under the torture platform, they were entangled by the endless huge shuriken and could not escape at all. Uchiha clansmen he is carrying have become illusory, as if they will disappear in the next moment. Seeing this scene, all the ninjas present were a little anxious. What the hell are the people in Anbu doing? Why haven't they caught the people behind the scenes? From the moment the first Jonin was defeated, they sent a request for support signal, and it stands to reason that Anbu's people should have caught the people behind the scenes by now. As long as the person behind the scenes can be caught, then, whether it is the hundreds of huge shuriken, or the piece of paper that fills the sky, it will disappear. Anbu, the country of rain, is an elite among Jonin. Once they make a move, they can solve all troubles in just a few seconds. However, until now, neither the shuriken nor the piece of paper has disappeared. The ninjas present were very depressed. You Anbu claim to be efficient. Why haven't you caught the people behind the scenes until now? What are they doing to eat? A bunch of trash. If you don't catch the people behind the scenes, the prisoners will run away. Chapter 45-successfully robbed Part 1. Hearing the sound, Tianbao immediately opened his eyes, and his face became extremely complicated at the same time. He thought it was Li Yi who shot. So, he wanted to stand up and help Li Yi. Although he used to be a ninja in the Land of Rain, he is now Li Yi's servant, so even if he betrays the Land of Rain, he will still help Li Yi. However, as soon as he stood up, he was stunned. Li Yi who was motionless beside him. Isn't Mr. Li Yi's hand? Tianbao's eyes widened, a little incredible. Not Mr. Li Yi, then who is it? Could it be the rumored Akatsuki? Uchiha ninjas who were about to disappear, with a very curious expression. But at this moment, Li Yi's voice suddenly entered Tianbao's ears. We'll catch up in the chaos. Good. Although Tianbao wanted to ask how to follow, he didn't ask anymore when he saw that Li Yi looked confident. Lord Li Yi must have his own way. In fact, Li Yi is also very confused now. They never heard of Rinnegan's ability to time and space ninjutsu. In the original book of Hokage, the Rinnegan used by Nagato is only the technique of 6 paths and the technique of the outsider. However, whether it is the technique of 6 paths or the technique of outsiders, there is no ability to transfer space. Could it be that Rinnegan already has the ability to transfer space, but in the original book, Nagato relied too much on the technique of 6 paths and the technique of outsiders, so he didn't have the ability to use space transfer. For this, Li Yi can't figure it out. But he didn't think much of it. Because the black-robed man is about to disappear with 2 Uchiha ninjas. We're ready to keep up. Li Yi immediately reminded in a low voice. Okay. Good. Tianbao and Violet nodded lightly. Li Yi squinted his eyes and looked around. He is now 99% sure that the man in black robe standing on the torture platform is Nagato. As for the person who threw the paper all over the sky, it was Conan. And the person who activated the Shuriken Shadow Clone technique should be Yahiko. Although the Shuriken Shadow Clone technique is the unique ninjutsu of the 3rd Hokage, the 3rd Hokage is Jiraiya's master. He taught the Shuriken Shadow Clone technique to Jiraiya, and Jiraiya taught this ninjutsu to the 3 of Yahiko. When Yahiko, Nagato, and Conan were young, Jiraiya saved their lives and became their master, taking care of them for 3 years. Later, when the 3 had the ability to protect themselves, Jiraiya left. At the time, the 3 of them were only in their early teens. And now, all 3 of them are 17 or 18 years old, and each has become a powerful ninja, and also founded Akatsuki. At this time, Violet next to Li Yi spoke up, her voice soft, and said, "My lord, I sense that the person standing on the torture platform is the most powerful person among the 3 people before." Just now, when the man in black robe appeared on the torture platform, Li Yi let Violet feel it. Now, hearing Violet's answer, Li Yi nodded lightly, thinking, that's Nagato. Violet said that the other party not only has a huge amount of chakra, but also gives people an ominous atmosphere, so Li Yi will determine that the other party is Uzumaki Nagato. Uzumaki Nagato is a member of the Uzumaki family, born with a huge amount of chakra, and his eyes are the Rinnegan of Uchiha Madara, so he gives a very ominous atmosphere. Therefore, Li Yi has now determined the identity of the person who shot. But at this moment, swish, swish. On the torture platform, two figures wearing masks suddenly appeared out of thin air. In their hands, they each held a shiny kunai and stabbed the black-robed man. They are extremely fast, like a python coming out of a hole, making it hard to guard against. The 10 Jonins on the torture platform were all happy when they saw this scene. Anbu people are finally here. The 10 Jonins were entangled in the paper and the huge shuriken, unable to escape. They thought they could only watch the prisoners escape, but unexpectedly, Anbu's people came. Now that Anbu's people are here, all problems can be solved. You must know that Anbu directly serves Lord Hanzo of the Salamander. Every Anbu person is an elite among the elites. The two men wearing masks shot very fast, and they were also extremely cunning and vicious, and they cut towards the neck of the black-robed man. Once it is cut off, then the head of the man in black robe will probably fly out directly. However, these two Anbu people hadn't touched the body of the black-robed man. When they were still half a meter away from him, suddenly, these two Anbu people's bodies flew out like kites with broken strings. At the same time, a circle of air waves visible to the naked eye gushed out from the body of the black-robed man. Where this circle of air waves passed, it seemed that even the void was distorting. Seeing this scene, Li Yi's pupils shrank suddenly. The next moment, the air wave disappeared, and the black-robed man disappeared with Uchiha's 2 ninjas. That's right, in the public eye, the man in black robe successfully robbed the court. At the same time, both the countless pieces of paper falling from the sky and the huge shuriken flying from all directions disappeared. The scene returned to calm. The 10 Jonins above the torture platform were all stunned, their eyes widened. And most of the people in the audience haven't recovered. After all these changes, from the appearance of the first Lysian to the disappearance of the black-robed man, all happened between the light and the flint. Those 3 people were caught off guard by the rain country. There was a slight arc on the corner of Li Yi's mouth. In order to execute the 2 Uchiha clansmen in public, the Land of Rain has put in a lot of effort, whether it is the 12 Jonin, the enchantment or the Anbu, all to protect the normal operation of this punishment. However, even though they were arranged so closely, they were successfully robbed by the 3 of them. Although there is also an element of surprise attack, it is undeniable that the current Yahiko 3 people are not only very powerful, but also extremely tacit. At this time, on the torture platform, the 2 masked Anbu people said something to the 10 Jonin, and then the 10 Jonin nodded one after another and left with them. Seeing this scene, Li Yi whispered, "Let's follow." Okay. Good. So, the 3 of Li Yi got up and followed quietly. If there is trouble in the land of the rain country, the 3 Nagato should not run far, and there is a high probability that they will be discovered by the rain country. Therefore, as long as you follow the ninjas of the rain country, you can find the 3 Nagato. Chapter 46_ The Most Dangerous Place, Part 2. Eyes. The 2 Uchiha clansmen on the execution ground were taken away like this. 10 Jonins, along with the 2 wounded Anbu men, went to find the culprit. As a result, on the torture platform, there was only a shocking pit left, still in the sight of everyone. There was constant discussion and speculation on the spot. All the audience looked at each other. Could this be the so-called tribulation field? At the same time, the 3 Li Yi had also left the execution ground. The execution ground has now been blocked, because some people suspect that the criminals did not escape, but mixed into the crowd. As long as the execution ground is blocked, they can close the door and beat the dogs. So logically speaking, it is impossible for the 3 of Li and Yi to get out of the execution ground at all. However, the ninja guarding the gate of the execution ground happened to be one of Tianbao's former subordinates. But he is a dead brain. Even if Tianbao is his former superior, he does not plan to let Tianbao leave. After all, everyone in the execution ground is suspect. But it is precisely because he is a dead brain, so Tianbao borrowed this point and said that he would follow the ninja of the Rain Country to catch criminals and contribute his strength to the Rain Country, so the ninja agreed. After walking out of the execution ground, Li Yi patted Tianbao on the shoulder with an expression of approval. If it wasn't for Tianbao, he wouldn't necessarily be able to sneak into the land of rain, let alone get out of the execution ground now. All this is thanks to Tianbao. Then, Li Yi turned his head and began to look around. Around the execution ground, countless ninjas have been surrounded. Today's Rain Country, whether it's Jianan or Genin, has already moved to catch the criminals. After all, under the watchful eyes of the public, the other party robbed the person who was to be executed in the land of rain. If they don't catch each other, then this will be a black pen in the history of Rain Nation. It's shameful to say it out. As the ninjas of the land of rain, they have their own patriotism and national pride, so they will never allow this kind of scandal to happen. My lord, it seems that the ninjas of the land of rain have not found any trace of those three people. What should we do now? Tianbao asked. At this time, Tianbao, his face was full of joy, and he was simply smiling. Before, Tianbao looked depressed and was extremely depressed. After all, he thought that Li Yi would rob the court. Well now, Li Yi did not shoot, but someone else did. Could he be unhappy? Li Yi touched his chin and said, if it were us, where would we go first after we robbed people from the execution ground? Tianbao immediately replied, if I had space ninjutsu, then I would instantly go outside the country of rain. Only by staying away from the boundary of the country of rain can I be completely safe. What if that time-space ninjutsu cannot leave the country of rain? Li Yi asked. This. Hearing Li Yi's question, Tianbao was stunned, not knowing how to answer. Violet said, if I can't leave the rain country, then I will go to the most dangerous place. Oh. Li Yi looked at Violet in surprise. Violet's voice was soft, and she explained, the most dangerous place is the safest place. Now that the whole city is blocked, the ninjas of this country will not let go of any place in the city, so instead of hiding in some remote corners, it's better to go to the most dangerous place. Hearing this, Tianbao's eyes lit up. The most dangerous place. Sister, do you mean? That's right. Violet nodded lightly and turned to look at the huge palace in the distance. It is not only the center of geographical location, but also the center of power and status, symbolizing supremacy. That's right, that's where the leader of the Rain Kingdom, Hanzo of the Salamander lives. However, the place where Hanzo-sama lives, ordinary people can't enter at all, let alone enter. Even if they get close, they will be expelled. Tianbao said, unless someone with a very high status or someone who has made great contributions, Lord Hanzo will give a token, and with the token, he can enter the palace. That is to say, those who can enter the palace will definitely win the prize. The person that Hanzo-sama trusts, such a person cannot betray Hanzo-sama and blatantly rob the Dharma field. Quote. Because they are worried that the partition wall has ears, whether it is Tianbao, Violet or Li Yi, Hanzo of the Salamander is called Hanzo-sama. Tianbao continued. I think that since the other party has time-space ninjutsu, he must have moved outside the country of rain, and he didn't stay in the country of rain, even if he couldn't move outside the country of rain at one time, but it's not a big deal. Use time and space ninjutsu a few times, after all. Staying in the country of rain will only increase the chance of being discovered, which will be harmful and useless. Quote. Makes sense. Li Yi nodded lightly. But then he touched his chin again and fell into deep thought. As far as he knows, the Rinnegan of Nagato only has the technique of 6 paths and the technique of outsiders. 1. Heavenly Path. Heavenly Path is the first of the 6 paths, which can release powerful gravitational and repulsive forces. The tricks are Shinra Tensai, Almighty Push, and Bansho Tenon, Universal Pull. 2. Humanity. Human Dao has a detection-type ninjutsu, which can directly invade the opponent's brain, obtain ideological information, and extract its soul. 3. Asura Road. Asura Road is to modify the human body, use missiles and other weapons to attack, and carry out large-scale damage. 4. Animal Road. Animal Road has a summoning ninjutsu, which can summon all kinds of immortal Rinnegan monsters without a hand seal. 5. The Way of Evil Ghosts. Demons have absorbing ninjutsu and can absorb all kinds of chakra ninjutsu. 6. Hell Road. Hell Road is a kind of ninjutsu similar to torture. As long as you are in hell, you have to answer questions honestly. If you answer lies, you will be deprived of life. 7. Outsiders. The Outer Dao Jutsu can not only summon the 10 tails, body, Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, but also use the Outer Dao Rinne Tensai, Samsara of heavenly life, Jutsu, a heaven-defying ninjutsu. These 7 items are all the abilities that Lee Yi currently knows about Rinnegan. However, among these abilities, there is no time-space ninjutsu. Although the technique of psychic is also a time-space ninjutsu, the technique of psychic can only summon psychic beasts to oneself, rather than transfer oneself to other places. After all, the Animal Dao Society is only about psychics, not reverse psychics. Why Lee Yi thought that the 3 Nagato did not leave the country of rain, but must be hiding somewhere in the country of rain. And that place should be, as Violet said, the most dangerous place, the hiding place of Hanzo of the Salamander. Lee Yi is not an indecisive person, so after just thinking for a moment, he made a decision and said, Go to Hanzo-sama's palace and take a look. Ask for a silver ticket, ask for a silver ticket, ask for a silver ticket. Chapter 47_Hard to Argue Part 1. In the center of the Rain Country, stands a palace. The leader of the Land of Rain, Hanzo of the Salamander, lives here. However, as soon as they approached the gate of the palace, the 3 of Lee Yi were stopped by a ninja. This is the place where Hanzo-sama lives. Idle people, etc., are not allowed to approach. The ninja held a handful of kunai and cautiously stared at Lin Chen and the 3 of them, reminding him. Lee Yi turned to look at Tian Bao. Tian Bao shook his head. Obviously, he didn't know the ninja. Lee Yi frowned slightly. He thought that Tian Bao also knew this ninja, and then he would be able to let go. Now it seems that this approach is no longer working. If there is no pass token, then please go back. At this time, the ninja lowered his voice and warned. Lee Yi couldn't think of a way for the time being, so he had to turn around and leave. But at this moment, a cold female voice suddenly came from behind Lee Yi. They are my friends, let them in. As soon as these words came out, Lee Yi immediately turned to look. What caught my eye was a beautiful woman. She has long light purple-blue hair, light orange pupils, and a lavender flower on the right side of her head. The purple eyeshadow gives a charming feeling. Lee Yi immediately widened his eyes slightly. Conan from the Yahiko trio. The ninja heard Conan's words. He immediately put away his kunai, his attitude changed 180 degrees, and bowed deeply to the 3 of Lian Yi. It turns out to be a friend of Nanda-sama, I'm rude. After he finished speaking, he turned sideways and made way for the 3 of Lee Yi. Come here. Conan's voice, very cold, doesn't seem to have the slightest emotional fluctuations, giving people a feeling of being 1,000 miles away. After speaking, she turned around and walked into the palace castle behind her. Sir, do we want to follow? Tianbao turned to look at Lee Yi and asked. And Lee Yi turned to look at Violet. Violet didn't speak, just tapped her head lightly, as if to confirm. Sure enough, it's Conan. Lee Yi's eyes narrowed slightly. From the moment Conan appeared, Lee Yi gestured to Violet with his eyes to let her feel it. And Violet also lived up to his expectations and sensed Conan, one of the 3 who appeared at the execution ground at that time. Lee Yi did not hesitate, nodded lightly, go, follow. With that, he stepped forward and followed Conan. Tianbao and Violet followed Li Yi and entered the palace and castle together. After entering the castle, Conan walked at the forefront. She did not enter the depths of the palace castle, but turned into a relatively remote place. Dark environment, empty. The distance, Li Yi saw two men standing in the distance. One has orange hair and a tall stature, giving people a very spiritual feeling. One has long yuhi-colored hair and a thin body, giving people a very sloppy feeling. Conan led the three of Li and Yi to the front of the two. However, as soon as he walked in front of these two people, the orange-haired man laughed and asked cheerfully, "The three should be the ninjas who are with us, right?" As soon as these words came out, Li Yi was taken aback. Answer. What is the response? However, before Li Yi asked, the orange-haired man turned to look at the yuhi-haired man and said, "Nagato, let them out." Good. Yuhi-colored hair didn't say anything nonsense. After hearing this, he immediately hand-sealed with both hands. Seeing the mark made by the man with yuhi-colored hair, Li Yi narrowed his eyes. Because he recognized that the seal that Yuhi made a man's knot was the seal of psychic art. Sure enough, when Yuhi made the man finish the seal, he raised his right hand and patted the ground lightly. Bang! A crisp sound. A thick white mist rises up. The white fog came and went quickly. Immediately afterwards, two figures appeared in Li Yi's field of vision. Seeing these two figures, Li Yi said, "It really is you who robbed the Dharma field." That's right, these two people are the two Uchiha clansmen. However, at the moment, the two of them were dumbfounded, paralyzed on the ground and motionless, like two walking corpses. Li Yi saw that they were still wearing a pair of silver handcuffs on their wrists. 3. We have done what you asked us to do, so please pay. At this time, Yahiko stretched out his palm towards Li Yi and the others. Li Yi frowned slightly and asked, "Did you misunderstand something?" "What do you mean?" Yahiko was taken aback. "It's not us who do business with you," Li Yi said. "Aren't you ninjas from the land of fire?" Yahiko asked dumbly. "We had a good negotiation before. As long as we rob these two people from the execution ground and bring them to this place, you will pay for it. What, do you want to go back on it now?" Finished speaking, Li Yi felt that the eyes of Yahiko, Nagato, and Conan were all filled with a hint of hostility. Li Yi had no choice but to explain, "It is the ninjas of the land of fire who made the deal with you, not us. In your accent, you obviously have the accent of the country of fire, and you still say that you are not from the country of fire." Yahiko asked, and then he turned to look at Violet and said, "And she should be the famous Kyubi, Nine-Tails person Jinchuriki column force, Uzumaki Kushina, right? Do you want to go back on it?" "You have misunderstood." Feeling the hostile gazes of the three of Yahiko, Li Yi immediately shook his head and explained, "I am from the land of fire, which is true, but she is not Uzumaki Kushina. Her name is Uzumaki Violet, a villager from Anning village, and it is Uzumaki Tianbao, who used to be a ninja in the land of rain and a villager of Anning village." Quote. Li Yi introduced Uzumaki Violet and Uzumaki Tempo respectively. Anning village. Yahiko frowned. The young face was full of doubts, and he obviously did not believe it. He asked, "There is indeed an Anning village around the country of rain, but why haven't I heard of Anning? Are there any members of the Uzumaki clan in the village?" While speaking, Yahiko took a step across and blocked the two Uchiha clansmen behind him. Obviously, he doesn't trust Li Yi very much now, and is worried that Li Yi will take action to take away the two Uchiha people. Li Yi has a sense of powerlessness that is hard to say. Did he know Konoha village had made a deal with Akatsuki? Fortunately, the ninja of Konoha village didn't come, but Akatsuki regarded him as the ninja of Konoha village. However, just when Li Yi was thinking about how to explain it, Conan suddenly said, "Yahiko, the ninja from the land of fire who made a deal with us, once said that their operation this time was led by a person from Uchiha, but these three people are not from the Uchiha clan. Ask for silver ticket times 1,000 trillion times." Chapter 48_Iceberg Beauty Part 2. Conan's voice, without the slightest emotional fluctuations, seems to be able to turn away people thousands of miles away. What an iceberg beauty! Li Yi glanced at the beautiful and dignified Conan and thought. In the original book of Hokage, Conan is an iceberg beauty, who doesn't talk much, but every sentence can touch the key points, and the shots are extremely cruel and show no mercy at all. Did they say that? Yahiko blinked, scratched the back of his head, and asked. Nagato nodded lightly. They did say that. Is he really not from Uchiha's clan? Yahiko pointed at Li Yi again and asked. Not really. Conan nodded lightly. The chakras of the Uchiha family are usually condensed in their eyes, just like the two of them. But there is almost no chakra in his body, just like an ordinary person. Hearing this, Li Yi just wanted to add, I am actually an ordinary person. Conan continued to say coldly, as for the two of them, they should both belong to the Uzumaki clan. It seems that you are not the one to meet us. Yahiko scratched the back of his head, smiled at Li Yi, and said cheerfully, I misunderstood you, I apologize to you. After speaking, Yahiko bowed deeply to Li Yi, with a very sincere attitude. Li Yi helped Yahiko up and said, You, welcome. However, brother, since you are from the land of fire, why are you here? Yahiko looked at Li Yi and asked. Li Yi didn't intend to hide it, so he pointed at the two Uchiha clansmen and said, I want to save them both. Worried that Yahiko would misunderstand again, Li Yi explained, Actually, with my strength, I can't leave the village, but I was kidnapped here by ninjas from the land of water, and later I heard that the land of rain was going to execute two Uchiha clansmen. So I want to save them, after all, they are compatriots. Quote. So it is. Yahiko finally understood. I did hear about the robbery of the country of fire, but I heard that the mastermind behind it was the country of thunder, not the country of water. The country of water wanted to provoke a war, so it was framed and blamed on the country of thunder. In fact, this matter has nothing to do with the country of thunder. Li Yi explained. So it is. Yahiko nodded and said, I didn't expect the country of water to want to provoke war. It's so evil. Peace is the beauty that everyone hopes for, but the country of water wants to destroy this hard-won beauty. We have to stop them. To be said that Yahiko is indeed a man with an excessive sense of justice. Looking at Yahiko, who was full of fighting spirit, Li Yi wiped away his cold sweat and said, I'm afraid there is another reason for this incident. Maybe Mizukage in the land of water was controlled by someone, that's why he made such a mistake. Decide. Yahiko shook his head directly. Whether or not Mizukage is under control, his desire to start a war is a terribly wrong decision. We Akatsuki have to stop him. Only through human-to-human communication can we fight. A bridge to peace. However, before Yahiko finished Akatsuki's ninja, Conan interrupted. Okay, stop talking nonsense. Our priority now is to get these two people out of the city. Yes. Yahiko's face was straight, but then he changed the topic. But these two people have been controlled. If we take them out of the rain country, they will die. But we can't just sit still here. Conan said coldly. The people in the country of fire have been missing. Either they were caught by the country of rain, or they haven't entered the country of rain yet. We can't count on them. Ah, yes. Yahiko sighed lightly. What should I do? If the control on them can be lifted, that's easy to say. Conan fell silent. At this time, Li Yi asked weakly. I want to ask, what is controlling them? Brother, this is it. Yahiko pointed to the handcuffs on the wrists of the two and said, These are handcuffs developed by Hanzo-sama, which are similar to a special technique of confinement. Once you put them on, you will not be able to leave the country of rain. In the land of rain, even if you take a single step, you will die on the spot. Quote. Li Yi nodded, and then asked again, How can I break these handcuffs? Hanzo-sama has a key there. You can crack it with a key. Yahiko replied. Apart from this method, Li Yi asked. It's gone. Yahiko shook his head. Master Hanzo is called a demigod by the world, and the confinement technique he developed, other than him, no one else can. However, before Yahiko had finished speaking, Nagato, who had always been silent, suddenly spoke up and said, "Actually, it can be broken open by force." Hearing this, Yahiko's eyes lit up immediately, turned to look at Nagato, and asked expectantly, "Nagato, can you break it open?" "I can't." Nagato shook his head lightly. "These handcuffs cannot be broken with ninjutsu, you must use taijutsu, that is, pure strength. But I don't have that much strength." "Well, that's a pity." Yahiko sighed lightly. Conan said coldly, "I'm afraid there is no such powerful taijutsu ninja in the entire Rain country." "Yes." Yahiko nodded lightly. "I heard that there are several powerful taijutsu ninjas in Konoha village. One of them is a ninja surnamed Chen. He created a unique taijutsu, Konoha Dragon God. He has a very powerful strength, if only he were there now." Quote. The Yahiko trio were helpless. However, at this time, Lee Yi asked again, "3, can I give it a try?" "You try." Conan frowned slightly and looked at Lee Yi up and down. Those sharp eyes seemed to penetrate Lee Yi. Then, Conan asked coldly, "You don't have a single abs, how do you try playing?" Hearing this, Lee Yi's eyes widened. Conan is. See through me. How else would he know that I don't have abs? "Conan, you can't say that. Although this brother is a rubbish, it is a good thing that he has this heart." "How can you say that to him?" Yahiko said solemnly. "Lee Yi. How do you feel that these two are scolding me?" Lee Yi didn't want to talk nonsense with them, so he squatted and grabbed Uchiha Makoto's handcuffs. Immediately afterwards, a golden light flashed in his hand, and a golden needle with thin hair appeared out of nowhere and inserted it into the keyhole on the handcuffs. Seeing this scene, Conan dismissed it. This pair of handcuffs is not only a pair of handcuffs, but also a special confinement technique. So, want to pry it open with a needle? Ah. Daydreaming. Conan didn't want to look any further, so he looked away. Well, keep asking for silver tickets. Chapter 49_Grab the Power Part 1. Of course, that's when Conan just looked back. Crack. A small sound suddenly sounded in my ear. Then, a gentle female voice came into my ears. "Hey, who are you? Haven't I been caught? Why am I here?" Conan's beautiful eyes widened sharply. Immediately turned to look. What caught my eye was an extremely beautiful face. It's just that this beauty is not looking at her at the moment, but staring blankly at Lee Yi opposite. Conan swallowed a mouthful of saliva. At the same time, Lee Yi squatted in front of the beauty and said, "Uchiha Makoto, I saved you." The words are simple and capable, without the slightest nonsense. That's right, the woman sitting in front of Lee Yi is the #1 beauty of the Uchiha family today, Uchiha Makoto. However, the handcuffs on Uchiha Makoto's hands were gone, but were smashed and scattered on the ground. In Lee Yi's hand, there is a golden stick with a diameter of half a meter. Obviously, it was this golden stick that opened the handcuffs. Conan's pupils shrank slightly, and he thought, what magic weapon is this? Why have the ability to grow bigger and smaller? Could it be the magic weapon of 6 paths? Nagato just said that in order to break the handcuffs, in addition to the key of Hanzo of the Salamander, there is another method, and that is to use brute force to open it. However, none of the 6 people present was a taijutsu ninja, so the second method could not be used at all. When Conan saw Lee Yi insert a gold needle into the handcuffs, she dismissed it, thinking that Lee Yi was just playing around. Because even if Lee Yi is a thief, he can open the lock in the handcuffs, but he can't break the forbidden technique on the handcuffs. After all, this is not just a pair of handcuffs, it is a kind of confinement technique. However, Conan never imagined that the gold needle in Lee Yi's hand had the function of automatically changing the size. That is to say, after the gold needle was inserted into the handcuffs, it quickly became larger, and then with brute force, the handcuffs were forcibly opened. At this moment, Uchiha Makoto stared at Lee Yi blankly, blinked his beautiful eyes and asked, "You saved me?" Lee Yi nodded solemnly. Since the system wants him to gain Uchiha Makoto's favor and capture her heart, then he should shamelessly grab the credit for this hero-saving beauty. However, the crisp sound of the system did not sound in Lee Yi's mind. Apparently, he is still in the Rain Country and has not fully rescued Uchiha Makoto. When he leaves the country of Rain, then he can truly complete the task. What is this place? Uchiha Makoto looked around again and asked. This is the palace of Hanzo of the Salamander, the leader of the Land of Rain. Lee Yi replied. As soon as these words came out, Uchiha Makoto's pupils shrank suddenly. Seeing the beauty in front of her, all her muscles were on alert. Lee Yi patted her on the shoulder and comforted. Don't worry, the people of the Land of Rain won't find us for the time being. Uchiha Makoto turned his head and looked at Lee Yi's palm on his shoulder. Lu Mei frowned slightly. It seems to be quite disgusting to this kind of relatively intimate physical contact. No, drop the word, seems. However, considering that the handsome man in front of him was his savior, Uchiha Makoto didn't say much. In Uchiha Makoto's beautiful eyes, there is still a little doubt. Obviously, when she was controlled before, she has no memory at all. Therefore, Lee Yi said to Violet, "Violet, tell her briefly about the cause and effect of the matter." After finishing speaking, Lee Yi walked to another Uchiha tribesman and inserted the gold needle in his hand into his handcuffs. Okay. Violet nodded obediently. Her voice was very soft, like cotton, and said, "Makoto, it's like this, when you were on a mission, you were caught by the Kingdom of Rain, and later the Kingdom of Rain wanted to execute you in public, but my master and you are compatriots. I couldn't bear to see you die like this, so we risked our lives by risking our lives and secretly sneaked into the country of Rain to save you in public." Violet's words, without the slightest pause, were very smooth, as if they had been rehearsed countless times. Of course, as soon as the words came out, "Chi." There was an extremely disdainful sound from Conan's mouth. Yahiko laughed, but he didn't say much. As for Nagato, well, he can be considered a mute. You are also from the Fire Nation. Had to look at Lee Yi on the left. Uchiha Makoto blinked his beautiful eyes, still with a hint of caution in his eyes, and asked, "What's your name? Which department do you serve?" Lee Yi's age is in his early 20s, and Uchiha Makoto is also in his early 20s. Therefore, if the other party is also a ninja from the Land of Fire, then she should not be ignorant. However, in her impression, there is no such person in front of her at all. Not to mention Lee Yi, she has never seen any of the 6 people in front of her. Therefore, Uchiha Makoto wondered if the 6 people in front of him were tricks of the enemy country. Like Uchiha Makoto has undergone rigorous training and has experienced countless fights. She is not a fierce and brainless woman, and she will never believe a stranger's words easily. My name is Lee Yi. I don't serve any department. I'm a jobless vagabond in the country of fire. Lee Yi didn't lie either, and answered lightly. Even if he lied now, the truth will be revealed when Uchiha Makoto is brought back to the Land of Fire. So, lying is useless. And when Lee Yi finished speaking, there was a crisp sound of pop. The gold needle in Lee Yi's hand suddenly thickened, and the silver-colored handcuffs that had been inserted into it were shattered and scattered on the ground. This time, Conan watched the entire process intently. Sure enough. Looking at the disappearing golden needle in Lee Yi's hand, Conan narrowed his beautiful eyes slightly. At this time, the Uchiha man regained his sanity, and then said the same words as when Uchiha Makoto first woke up. Who are you? Where is this place? How am I here? Lee Yi replied, Brother, don't get excited. My name is Lee Yi. I'm from the country of fire. We've saved you now. This Uchiha man is not as cautious as Uchiha Makoto. After he heard the words, his nose was moved and tears came. He grabbed Lee Yi's hands, and said gratefully, Brother, thank you so much. How do we get out of this place now? Uchiha Makoto stood up, looked at Li Yi, and asked. Dealing with Li Yi, she was not gentle. This made Li Yi quite puzzled. In the original, Hokage, Uchiha Makoto is a very gentle, virtuous, and feminine woman. However, why is the character she shows now different from the character in the original book? Well, the world continues to ask for silver tickets. Chapter 50_gentle and graceful. Second more. In the original work, Uchiha Makoto is a dignified, virtuous, generous, and sassy woman. All in all, she is a good wife. Uchiha Fugaku, who has always been arrogant, and indomitable, that she has kept a low profile. But now, what Uchiha Makoto showed was a kind of coldness like Conan. This leaves some confused. Uchiha Makoto's temperament has changed. Or, she has such a cold attitude towards a stranger she doesn't trust. After the two sides have developed trust, will she lower her mind and show her original appearance? However, Li Yi did not think much about this matter. There is an old saying, it's a mule or a horse, just pull it out for a walk and you'll know. When Uchiha Makoto is safely brought back to Konoha village, all the gestures of this woman will be revealed. As for the first task now, it is to take her out of the country of rain safely, and the second task is to capture her heart. In fact, Li Yi is not very interested in capturing her heart. He felt that it was enough for him to have Tsunade as a woman, and he didn't want to leave too much love debt. If it wasn't for the system requirements, then he didn't want to talk nonsense with this peerless beauty in front of him. What shall we do now? Uchiha Makoto asked. Li Yi turned to look at the Yahiko trio. Yahiko has always been an optimistic person. He laughed and said, we have now unlocked the art of imprisoning them, so taking them away is a trivial matter. After speaking, Yahiko turned to look at Nagato behind him. Nagato understood, nodded, and then hand-sealed with both hands. Nagato's hand seal is not fast, so Li Yi can see it clearly. A curious look appeared between Li Yi's eyebrows. The seal of the Nagato knot looks like a psychic technique, but it is not a psychic technique. He doesn't know. At this time, Nagato had completed the hand seal. He stretched out his hands, placed them on the shoulders of the two Uchiha tribesmen, and said, I am sorry for the two of you. The voice didn't fall. Bang, bang. Two crisp sounds. A thick white mist rose up. The white fog came and went quickly. Along with the white fog, the two Uchiha Makoto disappeared. I take the liberty to ask a question. Li Yi looked at Nagato and asked curiously, what technique did you use? Nagato didn't speak. Yahiko laughed and explained, this is a ninjutsu created by Nagato when he was a child, and it was adapted from the basis of psychics. Space creatures are summoned to our world, and reverse psychic is to let the caster enter other spaces from the real world, and this ninjutsu created by Nagato is to let others enter other spaces. When the shadow clone tribulation field arrives, it uses. However, before Yahiko finished speaking, Conan said coldly, Yahiko, you're talking too much. Haha, don't say it, don't say it. Feeling Conan's icy gaze, Yahiko immediately gave a haha and said. Li Yi was still a little puzzled and asked, since you can move people to other spaces, you should be able to leave the rain country now, right? Nagato can completely stay outside the land of rain, let Shadow Clone come to the robbery field, take the two of Uchiha to another space, and then let the outside body summon the two of Uchiha out. However, the three Nagato came to this most dangerous place. Why? Brother, did you forget what I said before? Yahiko explained, they wear that kind of handcuffs. Once they leave the country of rain, they will die instantly. Oh, so it is. Li Yi suddenly realized. But now, the confinement is lifted. Yahiko laughed, patted Li Yi's shoulder, and said cheerfully, brother, I thought you were a rubbish, but you have such a great use, it seems that you are not rubbish. Li Yi. This fuck, is he scolding me, or is he really scolding me? Conan said coldly, okay, deal with the scene, we will leave as soon as possible. After speaking, Conan took out a few pieces of white paper and sprinkled them on the smashed handcuffs. In an instant, the handcuffs disappeared as if they had melted away. Then, Conan waved her sleeves again, and the white pieces of paper that filled the sky suddenly swept out from her sleeves, turning into a torrent, engulfing Li Yi and Yahiko in an instant. Torrents come and go quickly. In the blink of an eye, the white pieces of paper in the sky disappeared. Conan, as if nothing happened, Li Yi blinked. What did this iceberg beauty just do? Seeing Li Yi's doubts, Yahiko explained, this is Conan's unique ninjutsu to remove breath, because we had contact with those two Uchiha people just now, so Conan. Before Yahiko finished speaking, Conan said coldly, okay, stop talking nonsense, let's go. Haha, okay. Yahiko scratched the back of his head and hit haha. The six are ready to leave. But at this moment, a dog bark suddenly sounded from not far away. Wow! Then Li Yi and the others saw that a group of people from the land of rain came over quickly with a dog on a leash. The dog is very cute, wearing a pink dress, it looks like a little bitch. And the ninja with the dog saw Li Yi and the others, and immediately shouted, you guys, what are you doing? Conan walked at the forefront, she didn't say much, just handed the copper token in her hand to the ninja. When the ninja saw the token, his cold and tough attitude eased a little, and said, it turns out to be the distinguished guest of Hanzo-sama. However, his attitude is just peaceful, not as respectful as the previous few people. Afterwards, he returned the token to Conan and said, several people, it is an extraordinary period, please don't wander around, or you will be arrested as a suspect, but it will be difficult to handle. Thanks for the reminder. Conan nodded lightly, his voice cold and crisp. The ninja looked down at the dog on the ground again and asked, have you noticed the aura of those two sinners? The dog shook his head, and even said, no. Continue the inspection. The ninja didn't grumble, he waved his hand, and took many ninjas under him to continue the inspection. The departure of 5 or 6 ninjas, boom rumble. Conan breathed a sigh of relief imperceptibly. Yahiko laughed and said, even the ninja can't find it. Conan, your skills are getting better and better. Don't talk nonsense, be careful that the partition wall has ears. Conan glared at Yahiko. Yahiko immediately shut up, looking very cute. Ask for silver tickets times 1,000 trillion times. Chapter 51 _ I Want to Kiss Her Part 3. Li and Yi left the castle smoothly and headed for the city gate. On the way, Li Yi compared Conan and Uchiha Makoto a little. Conan is extremely beautiful, although she is an iceberg beauty, she also has her own charm. This kind of woman is the easiest to arouse men's desire to conquer. Uchiha Makoto's appearance is not inferior to Conan at all, but Uchiha Makoto's temperament is somewhat different from Conan. What Uchiha Makoto shows is indeed a cold, refusal temperament, but Li Yi feels that in her bones, she is still a dignified, virtuous, generous, and gracious woman. This kind of woman can also arouse a man's desire to conquer. Just that this desire to conquer is completely different from the desire to conquer Conan. To put it more crudely, for Conan, it is dry wood and fire, just want to spend a good night with her. And for Uchiha Makoto, it is a long stream, want to marry her as a wife, let her be a husband and a son. Moreover, there is a difference, that is, the difficulty of the raiders, of the two women. Not an easy task to get Uchiha Makoto, but it's much easier than getting Conan. And this should be one of the reasons why the system only allowed her to capture the heart of Uchiha Makoto, but it did not let him capture the heart of Conan. Of course, Li Yi only thought about this kind of thing between men and women. Then, he put his eyes on the Yuhi-haired man in the front left. Uzumaki Nagato. Before Li Yi could see clearly, Uzumaki Nagato's eyes were Rinnegan. To be honest, Li Yi really wants to grab this pair of Rinnegans now. Rinnegan is the top eye in the Hokage world. If you use another chance to evolve, Rinnegan will evolve. Thinking of this, Li Yi's heart was already beating with excitement. However, sensibility belongs to sensibility, and rationality still exists. To be honest, Li Yi is very afraid of the current Nagato. To be precise, it was a little scary. On the execution ground, Nagato didn't have a hand seal, so the two ninjas from Anbu, the land of rain, were thrown out. If Li Yi guessed correctly, then this trick is the Shinra Tensei Almighty Push sign. The terrible ninjutsu that razed the village of Konoha to the ground in that instant. Li Yi did not expect that Nagato has already learned this kind of ninjutsu now. Therefore, it is basically impossible to snatch Rinnegan openly. No, drop the word, basically. Therefore, if you want to snatch Rinnegan, you can only sneak attack secretly. However, Akatsuki's cooperation is extremely tacit, and when Nagato is sleeping or practicing, Yahiko or Konan will definitely check for him. Of course, when Yahiko or Konan are practicing, Nagato will definitely guard him. Li Yi doesn't think he has the ability to fight Yahiko or Konan now. So, to snatch Rinnegan, the only way is to separate the three of them. However, the three of them have been inseparable since childhood and have hardly ever been separated. Therefore, it is not an easy task to separate the three of them. What method should be used to separate the three of them? Li Yi touched his chin, thinking in his heart. Thinking and thinking, Li Yi and the six came to the city gate. In the country of rain today, the entire city is under martial law, and people outside cannot enter, and people inside cannot leave. Let alone a human being, not even a fly can fly out. After all, now, the entire country of rain is shrouded in an invisible barrier. City gate. What, Brother Tianbao, are you leaving now? The city guarding ninja widened his eyes, shook his head immediately, and said categorically, at this juncture, no one can go out, Brother Tianbao, you can't hurt me. Tianbao had nothing to say and had to retreat. Tianbao retreated, Konan walked up, and took out a bronze token and handed it to the defending ninja. Sir, you can't go out either. Ninja guarding the city also shook his head and said, now the whole city is under martial law, let alone you. Even Lord Hanzo can't go out, you should stay in the city honestly for a few days, and when the criminals are found, you will naturally can go out. Quote. Hearing this, everyone in the Yahiko trio frowned, including Nagato. However, in the end, they didn't say much, and just went back honestly. The six people walked to a relatively remote corner and looked at the three Yahiko who were resolutely frowning. Li Yi asked, is there any problem? Yes. Yahiko nodded immediately. This ninjutsu of Nagato can only last for about 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, the two will appear again, and then it will be troublesome. Li Yi asked, after they show up, put them back, won't it work? No. Yahiko shook his head. This ninjutsu of Nagato has a time limit of about 1 minute. It has to wait for a minute before it can be performed again, and the ninjas of the Rain Country are very likely to find us within this minute. Hearing this, Li Yi suddenly realized. It turned out to be a skill CD. How much time is there now? Li Yi asked. Nagato replied, there are still about 13 minutes. That's really troublesome. Li Yi nodded, narrowed his eyes, and thought about countermeasures in his mind. Why don't we force our way out? Yahiko suddenly suggested. The bravery of a man. Konan shook his head directly and criticized in a bad mood. Those guarding ninjas are a small matter, but the barrier is a big deal. Do you think the barrier that Hanzo set up himself could be broken by a few of us? That can't be helped. Yahiko patted his head and sighed, I can only wait to die. Even if he has always been positive and optimistic, he can't think of an idea at this moment, and he is a little desperate. But at this moment, Li Yi suddenly asked, does the country of rain still not know that you established Akatsuki? As soon as this word comes out, the expressions of Yahiko and the others suddenly changed. Boom! Konan burst out with a powerful momentum, like a volcanic eruption, which directly forced Li Yi to the corner of the wall. She stretched out a jade hand and pressed it against the wall on the left side of Li Yi's face. How did you know? Li Yi swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Not that he was deterred by Conan's strength. Rather, Conan's posture, no matter how you look at it, is a bit like a wall. Li Yi coughed lightly. I guessed it. You think I'll believe it? Conversation. Conan's face was closer to Li Yi. The powerful momentum surged in Conan's body, making people terrified. Li Yi swallowed again. Not that he was deterred by Conan's stronger strength. Instead, Li Yi really wants to kiss Conan right now. Because Conan's face is so fucking beautiful. Well, just do it. P.S. The world is updating 2 to 3 chapters every day. There is no time for one update. Well, ask for a silver ticket. Chapter 52_Mistakes Men Make Part 1. The Land of Rain is a very traditional country. Conan, who lives in this country, is also a very traditional woman. In her consciousness, there are only 2 men in this world who are qualified to touch her body. That is her husband and father. Conan's father is already dead. And her husband has yet to do so. Although Conan is surrounded by 2 men, Yahiko and Nagato, Conan is more of a comrade-in-arms relationship than a relationship between men and women. Of course, if she had to choose one of these 2 men, she would not be disgusted. After all, she is just a little woman, and she also wants to have a warm embrace. Yahiko once asked Conan, "Conan, what kind of man do you like?" Conan is a girl. She didn't want to answer this kind of straightforward question, so she said coldly at the time, "Personality doesn't matter, but, kiss my lips, see my body, have sex with me, a man who has physical contact, no matter who he is, I will marry him." Quote. Yahiko was surprised. So casual. Conan replied indifferently, "If you marry a chicken, follow the chicken, if you marry a dog, follow the dog." At the time, Conan added, "As long as he's alive." From that moment on, Yahiko really knew Conan's mate selection criteria: kiss me, see me, or let me marry you, but, first of all, you have to have more strength than me, otherwise, I will kill you about you. At this moment, Conan's beautiful face was already close at hand. Li Yi could clearly feel her breath. Li Yi sniffed hard. It smells so good. And Conan seemed to be trying to create a sense of oppression. That beautiful, fair-skinned, and beautiful face was getting closer and closer to Li Yi's face. Gollum. Li Yi swallowed again. Wasn't that he was shocked by Conan's terrifying aura. But, looking at Conan's soft Yuhi flap, Li Yi's heartbeat couldn't be suppressed. I really want to kiss her. There is a saying that goes, at this moment, if you kiss, you are a beast. But, if you don't kiss, you are even worse than a beast. Li Yi didn't want to be worse than a beast. Just do it. Then. Come on. A small sound. Immediately. Yahiko's eyes widened. Tianbao and Violet, the 2 siblings, swallowed a mouthful of saliva, their faces full of shock. Even Nagato, who had always been taciturn and calm, took a step back. As for Li Yi and Conan, they kept their original postures and didn't move. Time, at this moment, seems to have stopped. On Conan's pale and cold, peerless beauty that seemed to have no emotional fluctuations at any time, a flash of Yuhi suddenly flashed across. Immediately afterwards, this smear of Yuhi's color spread towards Conan's jade neck at a speed that was easily visible to the naked eye. Li Yi flashed a shy look from Conan's light blue and purple eyes. But the next moment, an indescribable anger burned in her beautiful eyes. Shame. That's right, Conan at this time is extremely embarrassed. In her right hand, a piece of white paper suddenly appeared, and these pieces of paper gathered together to form a sharp cone. Yahiko hurriedly stepped forward to plead for Li Yi. Conan, don't be impulsive. Now is a critical period. We can deal with this matter after we leave the country of rain, okay? No. Conan didn't even look at Yahiko, and said coldly, "Today, he must die, otherwise." Otherwise. Conan didn't go on talking. Otherwise, she will marry Li Yi. Li Yi swallowed a mouthful of saliva. What he did just now was not to be mean, but a normal man can't help it, okay? With such a beautiful face, so close to him, who the hell can resist? All of this is a normal reaction of a man, okay? However, Li Yi saw murderous intent in Conan's beautiful eyes. Conan really wanted to kill him. Conan, listen to my advice. Now is not the time for infighting. After we leave here, we can handle this matter properly, okay? Yahiko is still trying to persuade Conan. Conan still shook his head, his attitude was cold and firm. No matter where it is dealt with, the result is the same, that is, he will die at my hands. Moreover, now that the whole city is under martial law, the few of us may not be able to escape. Let he goes one step first, so he doesn't have to worry about being tortured after being caught by the Rain Kingdom. After speaking, Conan raised the sharp cone in his hand and aimed at Li Yi's eyebrows. Conan's voice was cold and crisp. She looked at Li Yi and said, "Don't worry, I will give you a happy death so that you can die without any pain." Hearing this, Li Yi swallowed again. And Tianbao and Violet are ready to take action. Li Yi is their master. As servants, how can they watch the master's accident with their own eyes? Yahiko is still trying to persuade Conan. As for Nagato, he took out a piece of fruit from nowhere, watched Conan and Li Yi, and ate it with relish. A proper melon eater. At the same time, a ruthless look suddenly flashed in Conan's beautiful eyes, ready to attack. But at this moment, Li Yi suddenly shouted, "I have a way to escape." As soon as these words came out, the paper cone in Conan's hand suddenly stopped. At the same time, the bodies of Tianbao and Violet also stopped. "You have a way. What's your way?" Conan stared at Li Yi and asked in a low voice. In Li Yi's mind, crazy thinking began. He couldn't hold back just now and made a mistake that a man would make, and now he was killed. So, he can only deceive Conan. He has a way to escape the Rain Country. Only in this way can he temporarily save his life. However, how could Li Yi escape? Li Yi's current hole cards are only two, one is Dinghai Shenzhen, and the other is Uzumaki's two brothers and sisters. These two hole cards are obtained by the system. But these two trump cards seem to have no effect on the current predicament. Uzumaki's siblings couldn't help him leave the land of rain. The same is true for Dinghai Shenzhen. After all, the land of rain has been shrouded in an invisible barrier. So, Li Yi had to look around, trying to find a tool or method to escape. Seeing Li Yi's eyeballs rolling, Conan frowned and said coldly, "Do you have no way to lie to me on purpose? Do you think I look like the kind of person who can deceive people?" Li Yi asked sincerely. Conan didn't answer. Yahiko answered seriously, "Like, very similar." Suddenly, in Li Yi's heart, 10,000 grass and mud horses galloped past. Ask for silver tickets times 1,000 trillion times. Chapter 53 Devil Fruit. Second more. Conan has always been a frosty woman. Iceberg beauty, nothing like this. Li Yi looked around, but couldn't find a tool to escape, nor did he think of a way to escape. He was a little embarrassed, hesitating, not knowing what to say. "It seems you are indeed lying to me," Conan said coldly. "If that's the case, then..." After speaking, Conan raised the paper cone in his hand again and aimed at Li Yi's eyebrows. Seeing this scene, Tianbao and Violet both tensed their nerves and gradually approached Conan. But at this moment, Li Yi suddenly raised his right hand, pointed to Nagato on the right, and said, "That's the way." Conan was stunned. Yahiko was stunned. Nagato himself was stunned. "What do you mean?" Conan and Li Yi, still maintaining a wall-dong posture, she breathed a fragrance towards Li Yi and asked, "Is there a way for Nagato to leave the country of rain? We know better than you, you should stay here." Creating something out of nothing, trying to find a fish in mixed waters. Quote. No, I'm not talking about him. Li Yi shook his head slightly. Under Conan's questioning, inquiring eyes, Li Yi continued, I'm talking about the fruit in his hands. Fruit. Conan glanced at Nagato. Sure enough, Nagato had an unfinished fruit in his hand. This kind of fruit is called orange fruit. It is a very common wild fruit. Many ninjas use it to satisfy their hunger when they are running out of dry food. All in all, this is a common fruit that can no longer be seen. Li Yi said that this wild fruit is useful. What is the use? Conan looked at Li Yi questioningly. Smelling the faint fragrance on Conan's body, Li Yi swallowed dry saliva and said, that, beauty, can you move away first? After speaking, Li Yi's eyes swept down, involuntarily. Don't play tricks. Conan gave a cold warning and took 2 steps back. However, her cheeks were slightly yuhi. Just that this kind of yuhi is very subtle and cannot be captured by the naked eye at all. Li Yi took a deep breath, suppressed the primitive impulse in his body, turned around and walked towards Nagato, finally stopped 1 meter in front of Nagato, stretched out his right hand and said, do you still have this kind of wild fruit? Nagato nodded. Can you give me one? Li Yi asked. Nagato looked at Yahiko and Conan. Both nodded. Nagato then took out a fruit from his arms and handed it to Li Yi. The orange fruit is not big, only the size of a baby's fist, but it is heavy in the palm of the hand, and the orange fruit also exudes a slight aroma. This aroma is lighter than the taste of oranges and the taste of grapefruit. Thicker. Li Yi looked down at the orange fruit in his hand. That's right, he wants to evolve this wild fruit. But the next moment, Li Yi sighed in his heart. To be honest, if there is nothing he can do, then he does not want to waste this only one chance of evolution. He wants to evolve himself. However, he dared not. He was afraid that he would evolve into a lump, or even a pile of ashes. Because the system once said, the direction of evolution is uncertain. Evolution may evolve in a good direction, or it may evolve in a bad direction. If you use an evolutionary opportunity to evolve all the cells in your body into cancer cells, wouldn't Lao Tzu die on the spot? Moreover, no matter how powerful a person is, he will become a pile of ashes and a handful of loess in the end. Li Yi is afraid that after using an evolutionary opportunity, he will directly become a pile of ashes. This is too wrong to die, isn't it? Therefore, Li Yi did not dare to try it lightly. Li Yi originally planned to evolve himself when he had 2, 3 or even more chances to evolve. Even if the direction of evolution for the first time is to evolve in a bad direction. But what about the second, third, or even more? As long as there is one evolution, and it evolves in a good direction, then Li Yi can become powerful. Therefore, Li Yi wanted to save more evolution opportunities. Li Yi is well aware of a truth, that is, it is better to have a father or a mother than to have a mother. Only when you are strong is your foundation. Whether it is Dinghai Shenzhen or the Uzumaki siblings, they are all external forces. With external forces, they can't achieve great things after all. However, Li Yi is not the master of quick success. Although he wants to gain great strength, he does not want to take such unknown risks. Li Yi is not the kind of impulsive and reckless 250. He will weigh the pros and cons of everything, and no matter what he does, he must be cautious, because who knows if he will die in the next moment. Li Yi quietly walked to the side of the Uzumaki siblings. Although he wants to evolve this wild fruit now, his practice is actually a kind of helplessness. A dead horse is a living horse doctor. If the evolution is successful, it is also beneficial to the current situation, so to speak. However, once evolution fails, then, Conan will kill him. Why he stood beside the Uzumaki siblings. With these 2 bodyguards by his side, Li Yi can feel more at ease. Conan saw Li Yi's movement, she didn't stop it. This is her confidence. She is confident that even with the protection of this man and a woman, she is sure to kill this man. Come on, no ink. Seeing that Li Yi hadn't moved, Conan frowned and urged. Tilde. Li Yi took a deep breath, and then let it out slowly. He closed his eyes slightly, and said in his heart, System, I want to evolve the fruit in my hand. Ding. Detected that there is an ordinary wild fruit in the hands of the host. Do you want to evolve it? The crisp sound of the system immediately sounded in Li Yi's mind. Evolution. Li Yi nodded inwardly. Ding. Consume one evolution ability and start evolving. Ding. Evolution succeeded. Ding. Ordinary wild fruits evolve into devil fruits. The series of voices from the system rang in Li Yi's mind. Li Yi's eyes lit up. Devil fruit. Evolution succeeded. Li Yi immediately asked, what kind of devil fruit is this, and what abilities does it have? System replied, go back to the host, this is the fruit of the door. The ability is that everything the host has touched with his hands can become a door and be opened. Hearing this, a dazzling brilliance flashed in Li Yi's eyes. Although he is a loyal fan of Hokage, he also watches Pirates, and knows how powerful the door fruit in Pirates is. The door fruit, the space system fruit, as the system said, the user of the door fruit, any place he touches with his hand can become a door, and the user can pass through the door and instantly appear in another place. That is space teleportation. Chapter 54. Conan is going to accept it. Third more. To put it more narrowly, the ability of the door fruit is space teleportation. In the original book, Pirates, the owner of the door fruit is a bar owner named Bruno. Bruenor has developed many abilities of the fruit of the door. For example, teleportation. Anywhere the user touches with his hand, he can open the door, thereby realizing space teleportation. For example, air door opening the door in the air, the user can enter another space and dodge the enemy attack blah, blah. In fact, to be honest, the ability of the door fruit is almost the same as that of Uchiha Obito's Kamui. Can be teleported. Can temporarily enter another space. Well, it is very similar. However, Li Yi didn't think about it so much now. He swallowed the orange fruit in one bite or two. Logically speaking, every devil fruit tastes bitter. However, the devil fruit that Li Yi ate turned out to be sweet and tasted like an orange, and a grapefruit. It seems that the system has also evolved the taste of devil fruits. Li Yi stuck out his tongue and licked the juice from his mouth. Well, that's a rather disgusting move. Conan frowned. To be honest, Conan couldn't accept it when he thought that his future husband was such a disgusting person. Wait, no, how could he be my future husband? Conan quickly corrected his inner thoughts. Hiccup tilde. Li Yi swallowed the devil fruit. He burped, as if he had eaten a delicious meal. Conan Liame frowned slightly, stared at Li Yi, and asked, is there anything you can do? She didn't believe that Li Yi just ate an ordinary wild fruit to help them out of their current predicament. Although the wild fruit just flashed a golden light. However, she still didn't believe it. Therefore, she is very suspicious of Li Yi. Li Yi didn't reply to Conan's question, but slowly closed his eyes, raised his right hand at the same time, and gradually swiped down above the void in front of him. In an instant, a layer of sweat appeared on Li Yi's forehead. The next moment, Li Yi's entire right arm was shaking, and it seemed to be very laborious. Immediately afterwards, blue veins burst out on Li Yi's neck. In Li Yi's feeling, he is now using one hand to lift a heavy object heavier than him. What is he doing? Yahiko looked at Tianbao and Violet and asked curiously. Yahiko believes that since Tianbao and Violet are Li Yi's companions, they should know what Li Yi is doing now. However, both Tianbao and Violet shook their heads, indicating that they did not know. Looks like a lot of hard work. Even Nagato, who had always been silent, spoke at this time. Conan didn't speak. There was an extremely disdainful wheeze from her soft Yuhi lips. Obviously, she felt that Li Yi was pretending. Yahiko asked, Conan, if this guy really saved us, Would you kill him? Why not kill? Conan asked coldly. Because he saved your life, you actually want to kill your savior. Yahiko pretended to be surprised. Hearing this, Conan fell silent. In her opinion, if Li Yi kissed him, she should have killed him. In other words, Li Yi owes her a life. However, if Li Yi succeeds in saving Conan, then Conan owes Li Yi his life. Logically speaking, this can be complementary. You owe me a life, and I owe you a life, complement each other. From now on, the two will not owe each other. You walk on your Yangguan road, and I cross my single plank bridge. Yahiko thought so. However, after Conan was silent for a while, he went so far as to say, I killed him and then committed suicide. Hear this. Hi. Yahiko took a deep breath. Too harsh. Not only cruel to others, but also to yourself. It is indeed the most poisonous woman's heart. Conan, don't do this, Nagato and I can't bear you. Yahiko advised. Don't play this game with me. Conan said coldly, this is my principle, and no one can persuade me. Okay. Yahiko sighed lightly, bowing his head in despair. But at this moment, the taciturn Nagato suddenly opened his mouth and said, if he can save us, then, do you still have the ability to kill him? Although Nagato doesn't talk much, he can always talk about key points. Hit the nail on the head. Hearing this, Conan choked. Yes, if this man from Konoha village has the ability to take them out, then, can she still kill him? However, if you can't kill him, then why don't you marry him? Conan's face began to change slightly. It seems that she is about to begin to accept this reality. But at this moment, the taciturn Nagato suddenly spoke again and said, I don't think it's very likely that he can lead us to escape. After speaking, Nagato pointed at Li Yi. Yahiko and Conan both turned their heads to look. Li Yi's clothes were soaked with sweat, and his legs were shaking, like a man who had just finished a marathon. Obviously, he was about to collapse. And his right hand, from top to bottom, is about 30 or 40 centimeters. What the hell is he doing? Conan frowned, and doubts were written on that beautiful face. Nagato shook his head gently, I don't know either. But it's been about a minute since he closed his eyes. How long does your ninjutsu last? Conan asked Nagato. 7 or 8 minutes left. Nagato replied. There are still 7 or 8 minutes, so let's think of a way. We can't rely on this unremarkable Konoha villager. Who knows what he is doing? Conan said. Good. Nagato nodded slightly. Yahiko also nodded. In short, they still can't trust Li Yi. The three planned to split up. However, just as the three of them were about to leave the alley, a weak voice suddenly entered their ears. Okay. It was Li Yi's voice. Extremely weak. Weak. As if in old age. After that, Li Yi's sweaty body fell to the back involuntarily. Bang. Did not fall to the ground. Instead, it fell into the scent of violets. Violet didn't dislike Li Yi's sweaty body. On the contrary, seeing Li Yi's pale face, Violet felt extremely distressed. Although she has not yet developed a love between men and women for Li Yi is her savior after all. Can she not feel distressed when she sees her savior so tired now? However, because Violet's attention was all on Li Yi's body, she didn't see that, ahead, a translucent oval door appeared out of thin air. Well, the world continues to ask for silver tickets. Chapter 55_Little Bitch Part 1. Violet didn't see it, but everyone else saw it. A translucent oval door just appeared in front of everyone out of thin air. What is this? Conan's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly. She had never seen such a thing. What kind of ninjutsu is this that can open the door in the air? Conan turned to look at Nagato. Nagato is the one who knows the most among the three of them, so every time they encounter such strange things, Conan and Yahiko will ask Nagato. However, Nagato also shook his head. I don't know either, but if I guessed correctly, this should be a time-space ninjutsu, or a time-space bloodline boundary. Time and space. Conan's face changed slightly. That is to say, this man from Konoha village can really take us out. It seems so. Nagato nodded slightly. Haha, we really underestimated this brother. Yahiko laughed, scratched the back of his head, looked at Lee Yi and asked, Brother, what should we do now? At this moment, Lee Yi's face was pale, weak, and his eyes were black, as if he would faint in the next moment. Obviously, he has collapsed. Help me over, he said feebly. Violet didn't dislike Lee Yi's sweaty body at all, hugged Lee Yi and walked towards the oval door. Then, Violet put Lee Yi's hand on the handle of the oval door. Lee Yi pulled the oval door open. Door open. Go in. Lee Yi said. After speaking, Lee Yi fell into a coma and was unconscious. Conan narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Yahiko. Should we trust him? Now do we have any other way than trusting him? Yahiko said a little helplessly. Conan did not refute this. In a few minutes, Nagato's ninjutsu will fail. Once the two Uchiha clansmen appear, they will be captured by the Kingdom of Rain. At that time, life is better than death. Therefore, I can only trust Lee Yi now. Although Nagato was taciturn, at this moment, he was the first to come out. The length of the oval door is only 60 to 70 centimeters, so the long door is drilled in. After getting in, Nagato disappeared. Let's go too. Yahiko said, and after speaking, he also got in. Conan was still hesitant. After all, she couldn't trust Lee Yi. However, now there is no other way than trusting Lee Yi. Alas, a dead horse can only be used as a living horse doctor. Conan let out a sigh of aroma and got in. So far, the Yahiko trio have all disappeared. Sister, what should we do? Tianbao turned to look at Violet and asked. Go in, of course. Violet said without hesitation. Tianbao, you go first. Okay. Tianbao didn't say more, nodded, and also got into the oval door. Violet lowered her head and looked at Lee Yi in her arms. A firm look flashed across her beautiful eyes. My lord, I believe in you. After muttering, Violet hugged Lee Yi and also got into the oval door. And when Lee Yi just got in, the translucent oval door above the void disappeared instantly. All six disappeared. As if from the very beginning, they hadn't appeared. However, just after the oval door disappeared. Wow! A crisp dog bark suddenly came from not far away. Immediately afterwards, a little bitch, leading a group of ninjas, ran into the alley. Master Ninja, have you found something? Asked one of the leading ninjas. The little bitch didn't answer, just kept sniffing and spinning around in the same place. When the ninjas saw this scene, they didn't dare to speak, and they didn't even dare to take a breath. You must know that although this little bitch is just a beast, her status in the land of rain is much higher than theirs. After all, the ninja dogs in the whole country of rain are its subordinates. I don't know how long. The little bitch opened her eyes, spit out human words, and wondered, is there something wrong with my nose? As soon as these words came out, the ninja's eyes lit up and asked, My lord, did those two sinners of Uchiha appear here before? No. The little bitch shook her head slowly. Ah, then. Ninjas are all confused. The little bitch said, since the other party dares to kidnap the two Uchiha people, it means that the other party will definitely be able to hide them and not be discovered by us, so it is useless to look for the smell of the two Uchiha people. So, I changed my mind, which is to look for the smell of other people in the city. Quote. My lord, this method is wonderful. The ninjas all suddenly realized and praised. The little bitch continued. I smelled 6 different scents in this place, and the scents were very strong. That is to say, there were 6 people standing in this place just now, but now, this place, how can there be a figure? What do you mean, my lord? The ninjas all asked. 2 possibilities. The little bitch replied. Either I have a problem with my nose, or the other has run away. How can there be a problem with the nose of an adult? The ninjas shook their heads hastily. So, that's the second possibility, said the little bitch. However, my lord, now that the whole process is under martial law, and there is a barrier to protect it, how could the other party run away? The ninjas asked. Have you never heard of space ninjutsu? Asked the little bitch lazily. Space ninjutsu. The ninjas all shrank their pupils. Okay, my children and grandchildren have smelled the smell for so long, and you have searched for so long, but until now, no trace of the other party has been found. It can be seen that the other party has escaped. The little bitch said, just take my original words and report back to your Hanzo-sama. This is. Although the ninjas were still a little confused, they didn't dare not listen to the words of the dog in front of them, so they all nodded and turned away. They wanted to leave with the little bitch. However, the little bitch said, you guys go back and report, just leave me here. Yes. The ninjas all nodded and turned to leave. Leaving the little bitch alone, oh no, a dog, in this remote alley. It closed its eyes, sniffed again with its nose, and then opened its eyes, with a humanized smile sketched on the corners of its mouth, and muttered, time and space ninjutsu, or the boundary of time and space blood, it's a bit interesting, however, I have already remembered your scent, and I will not let you go when I see you next time. Quote. After speaking, the little bitch turned around, twisted her fart times and left slowly. Its walking posture, looks quite enchanting. Ask for a silver ticket. Chapter 56_Obedient Good Girl Part 2. Li Yi didn't even know how long he had been in a coma. He only felt that all the cells in his body were exhausted. He felt like he had fallen into a bottomless abyss, falling forever, never landing. It's an extremely uncomfortable feeling. Finally. Oh. Li Yi took a deep breath and suddenly sat up from the bed. His body was already covered with sweat. Sir, are you all right? Violet had been standing by the bed, and when she saw Li Yi wake up, she immediately grabbed Li Yi's right hand and asked with incomparable concern in her eyes. Li Yi lowered his head and glanced at Violet's jade hand. Then, shaking his head, it's okay. It's really nice of you to wake up. Violet said happily. Li Yi looked around. This is a strange house, strange bed, strange sheet, strange pillow, strange quilt. Where is this? Li Yi asked. Go back to my lord, this is the little girl's room. Violet replied. That is to say, we are in Anning village now. Li Yi asked. Yes, my lord. The Violet head tapped. It seems that the space transfer was successful. Li Yi's mouth, a proud arc was drawn. The door fruit has the ability to transfer space, and now this ability has been obtained by him. Reason, Li Yi suddenly felt like crying. It has been more than 5 years since he came to this world. He was insulted for 5 years, bullied for 5 years, and looked down upon by others for 5 years. He has always felt that he may have done too many sins in his previous life, so in this life, he will be subject to this endless punishment. Originally, he had already confessed his fate. He just wanted to wait until Tsunade came back and borrow Tsunade's wind to get shelter. But now, he won't. Because of his plugin, it has already come. Infinite Evolution System. It has only been 3 or 4 days since the Infinite Evolution System was obtained. In these short 3 or 4 days, he not only obtained the heaven-defying divine artifact, but also the heaven-defying ability to transfer space. I believe that in the future, I will get stronger and stronger. Li Yi clenched his fists and whispered in his heart. He has this confidence. He should have that confidence too. Without thinking much, Li Yi turned to look at Violet and asked, how many days have I slept? Sir, you have slept for 3 days and 4 nights. Violet replied. 3 days and 4 nights. Li Yi is a little surprised. Have you slept for so long? It seems that with my current physical strength, the ability to use the devil fruit is still a bit too reluctant. Lee resolutely said. To use ninjutsu, you need chakra. The ability to use devil fruit requires physical strength. The door fruit has the powerful ability of space transfer, but because of this, the greater the ability, the greater the price to be paid. The distance between the land of rain and Anning village, although not close, is not far. Just such a distance, not only exhausted his physical strength in an instant, but also made himself lie in bed for 3 days and 4 nights. It's because I'm too weak. Lee Yi clenched his fists. But when he tried, his whole body was sore. This feeling of soreness is like running 100 marathons in a row. The muscles of the whole body are full of lactic acid, which makes people sore, swollen and painful, very uncomfortable. Where are the 3 of them, Yahiko? Lee Yi asked. The 3 of them are gone. Violet replied. Go away. Lee Yi blinked and suddenly remembered that Conan seemed to have said before that he wanted to kill himself. But how is she gone now? Seemingly seeing Lee Yi's doubts, Violet Lan replied, Before you leave, Master Nan, let me give you a message. She will let your head hang on your head for a while, and after you recover, she will come to pick it up. Quote. Hear this. Lee Yi was taken aback. Afterwards, Lee Yi shook his head with a wry smile. She is really a cold woman. Why don't I just kiss you? As for such a big fight. This is a mistake every man makes, okay. Shaking his head and no longer thinking about it, Lee Yi asked again, what about the 2 of Uchiha? The 2 adults are in the village now, waiting for you to wake up. Violet replied softly. Lee Yi nodded. Okay then, help me down. So, with the help of Violet, Lee Yi got out of the pink yuhi-colored quilt. Dressing Lee Yi, Violet's cheeks slightly yuhi. After all, she has seen. By the way, why am I in your room? Lee Yi didn't seem to care at all, and Yuhi asked without breathing. Sir, you were originally living in your own room, but you were in a coma. During the time you were sleeping, you were sweating all the time, and it was black sweat, so I made an assertion and put you on my bed. Violet replied. Black sweat. Lee Yi was slightly startled. She turned her head to look at the pink yuhi-colored bed sheet. There is indeed a black mark on the bed sheet, and it also exudes a stench. Then did Lee Yi smell it, and the whole room was filled with a stench. Disgusting, nauseating. No wonder Tianbao or Uchiha Makoto are not here. Lee Yi suddenly realized. It stands to reason that he is Uchiha Makoto's savior, and Uchiha Makoto should always stay by his bedside, waiting for him to wake up, no matter how they don't understand etiquette. And he is the master of Tianbao. As a servant, Tianbao should do the same. But now, only Violet did it. Thank you. Lee Yi patted Violet's shoulder and said. My lord, you are too kind. Suddenly being thanked, Violet's cheek was yuhi, hurriedly lowered her head, rubbed the corner of her skirt, and said hesitantly. I'd better take a shower and then see those 2, ungrateful, Uchihas. Lee Yi said with a smile. Okay sir, I'll go and boil water for you. After speaking, Violet turned and left. Looking at Violet's slender back, Lee Yi touched his chin and sighed. She's a good obedient girl, but I don't know if she's obedient about the matter between men and women. But then again. Lee Yi's eyes narrowed, he turned his head to look at the black mark on the bed sheet, touched his chin and muttered, black sweat. I remember that in many fantasy novels, after the hero's body is tempered, black sweat will appear on his body. Right, black sweat represents the impurities in the body. After the impurities are removed, the physique will be enhanced. Could it be that after I used the power of the devil fruit, my physique was enhanced? Well, the world continues to ask for silver tickets. Chapter 57 _ change her attitude. Third more. In the tub. Lee Yi's body was soaked in the warm water. Violet took the trouble to wipe his back. Her strength and speed are well controlled, which Lee Yi enjoys very much. Lee Yi sat in the tub, thinking with his eyes closed. To use ninjutsu, you need chakra. If you want to use the power of devil fruit, you must have strong physical strength. However, this body of his own has been a sick child since he was a child, and it is extremely weak. In other words, not only is he not good at ninjutsu, but also can't learn taijutsu. However, now, I can obviously feel that my physical fitness has been enhanced. At least his own strength is much greater than before. It seems to be the reason for the devil fruit. Li Yi nodded secretly in his heart. If you want to use the power of devil fruit, you must first have strong physical strength. Li Yi does not have such strong physical strength. However, even so, Li Yi forcibly activated the power of the devil fruit. Therefore, as feedback, Li Yi's physical fitness was forcibly enhanced. It's a great thing to have improved physical fitness. Li Yi touched his chin and muttered to himself. He has always wanted to have a strong body. Because he wanted to practice the 8 inner gates. In his opinion, the technique of the 8 inner gates is one of the most powerful physical techniques in the world. You know, in the original book of Hokage, Might Guy used the last gate of the 8 inner gates, the dead gate, and almost kicked Uchiha Madara to death. Therefore, some people call it Gai Huang, but the person who almost kicked out the finale. Ever since he got the infinite evolution system, Li Yi wanted to get a way to practice the 8 inner gates. Not because Li Yi wanted to die. Instead, Li Yi wanted to use an evolutionary opportunity to evolve the technique of the 8 inner gates. As far as Li Yi knows, the technique of the 8 inner gates has extremely powerful side effects. After each use, the body will collapse, and after using the last of the 8 gates, the death gate, people will die. Therefore, Li Yi wanted to use an evolutionary opportunity to erase this side effect. That's right, Li Yi's ideal is to open 8 doors in the future. The infinite evolution system can evolve everything, so it can naturally evolve the technique of the 8 inner gates. Of course, no matter how evolved, if you want to practice the 8 inner gates, you must at least have a strong body. Therefore, when he feels that his physical fitness has been enhanced, Li Yi will be happy from the bottom of his heart. The technique of the 8 inner gates was invented by Might Guy's father, Might Dai. In 2 or 3 years, Might Dai should be surrounded and killed by the 7 ninja swordsmen. That is to say, he should now be killed. The art of the 8 inner gates has been created. Li Yi thought to himself, in the original book, Might Dai is a very peaceful and approachable person. If I take the initiative to learn the technique of the 8 inner gates from him, he should agree. Thinking of this, Li Yi suddenly couldn't help it and wanted to go back to Konoha village. He very much wants to evolve the technique of the 8 inner gates into a technique without side effects. By the way, do I still have the chance to evolve? Thinking in his heart, Li Yi opened the system panel. Ding! Host name, Li Yi. Age, 20 years old. Sex, male. Strength, mortals with relatively strong physical fitness. Weapon, Dinghai Shinpin. Mission, kill Uchiha Fugaku, capture Uchiha Makoto's heart, change Konan's attitude towards himself. Remaining chance to evolve, once. Looking at the panel, Li Yi froze for a moment and blinked. Compared with the previous ones, the 2 items on the panel have changed. Strength. He used to be an ordinary mortal, but now he is a man with relatively strong physical fitness. Although this kind of change seems to be quite tall, Li Yi also knows that he is just a little stronger and a little stronger. That's all. For example, before, Li Yi could lift 40 to 50 jins of objects, but now, Li Yi can lift 60 to 70 jins of heavy objects, or even more. In fact, not much has changed. No longer entangled in this one, Li Yi looked at the task column. Now, he has completed a mission, save Uchiha Makoto. Thus, he gets an evolutionary opportunity. However, he triggers another task, changing Konan's attitude toward himself. Konan's attitude towards me. Li Yi frowned slightly. Konan's attitude towards himself should be hatred and hostility. No, it's not that simple. As a master of picking up girls, Li Yi knows that Conan is definitely more than just hatred to himself. There must be other emotions. Otherwise, upon arriving at Anning village, Conan would have killed himself instead of saving his life. However, as for what the other emotions are, Li Yi is not quite sure. Grateful. Should have. After all, he saved her. Love. I think should not be. I just kissed her. This kind of hooliganism should not make her fall in love. But can't tell. After thinking for a while. I don't even know what her current attitude towards me is. How the hell can she change her attitude towards me? Li Yi frowned. So, Li Yi asked in his heart, System, what is Conan's attitude towards me now? System immediately replied, back to the host, the system doesn't know. You don't know, you will let me change her attitude towards me. Li Yi rolled his eyes. System replied, go back to the host, that's right. That's right. Li Yi is speechless. After thinking for a while, Li Yi asked, how did this so-called task trigger? Also, can I not do the task? System replied, back to the host, the task is randomly triggered according to the people and things the host encounters. If the host does not encounter this person or this matter, then the task will not be triggered. Back to the host can choose don't do assignments. Will there be punishment for not doing the task? Li Yi asked again. System replied, return to the host, there will be no punishment. That's fine. Li Yi nodded. Conan, Shenlong sees the beginning but not the end. Even if Li Yi wants to change her attitude towards herself, how can she change if she can't see her? Therefore, Li Yi wanted to postpone this task for a while. It's not too late to do it again when there is a chance. Fortunately there is no penalty. Li Yi breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, Violet had finished wiping Li Yi's back. She wanted to wipe the front for Li Yi. However, she saw that Li Yi's face was constantly changing, and she seemed to be thinking about something, so she knelt quietly at the back without making a sound. Seeing Li Yi breathe a sigh of relief, Violet finally spoke, her voice soft and delicate, and asked, Sir, the back has been washed, let me wash the front for you Tilda. Well, this is the third chapter of today's update. I will lick my face and continue to ask for a wave of silver tickets Tilda. Chapter 58_Dog Stuff Part 1. The back of the body has been washed. So, Violet wanted to wash the front of Li Yi's body. Actually, she is quite shy. However, as a servant, it is her duty to bathe her master. So, she could only bite the bullet. Hear Violet's words. Li Yi blinked. Head, Li Yi stared at Violet. On Violet's fair and beautiful face, there was already a hint of Yuhi. It's beautiful. Li Yi admired in his heart. To be honest, he was very itchy. However, now he is in no state at all. At this time, his limbs were weak, his whole body was sore, and he didn't even have the strength to walk, let alone that incident. That's right, at the moment, he has temporarily lost that ability. Ah Tilda. Li Yi sighed lightly. Woo Tilda. Afterwards, Li Yi took another breath and said, okay, I'll trouble you. Li Yi doesn't even have the strength to wipe his body now. So, he can only ask Violet to help. During this process, Li Yi tried his best to distract himself and think about other things. So he asked, how long did it take me to open that door before? Violet stared at Li Yi's chest and didn't dare to look down. Her cheeks were slightly Yuhi, and her voice was small. She said, go back to your lord, it's about a minute. A minute. Li Yi frowned slightly. It took him a minute to open the space door. Of the door fruit, Bruno can open a space door with a wave of his hand. But it took him a minute and all his strength to open a door. The gap is too big, isn't it? However, think about it too. Relying on his weak chicken-like body, forcibly opening the space door, this is already very good. What do you want for the length of time? With my previous physical strength, It took about a minute to open a space door, but now that my physical strength has been enhanced, it shouldn't take such a long time to open another space door, right? Li Yi pondered in his heart. From the land of rain to Anning village, the distance is not too far, but the space transfer not only exhausted all his physical strength on the spot, but also made him comatose for more than 3 days. Now, his physical strength has been enhanced. So, he just wanted to try, would another space transfer of this distance exhaust his physical strength? However, his limbs are now weak, his body is sore, and he is not in the state at all. Therefore, this kind of attempt can only be discussed in the future when there is a chance. At the same time, Li Yi evaluated himself in his heart. Although his physical strength has increased a bit, he is still a short distance away from Genin. However, he now has a golden hoop and a door fruit, so, let alone Genin, even Chunin, Li Yi dares to fight. Defeat a Genin, Li Yi is very confident. After all, Genin is not too strong. However, defeating a Chunin is not enough. Of course, if Li Yi wanted to escape, the other party couldn't stop him. If the other party is a Jonin, then he only has the chance to escape. Unless Li Yi's sneak attack is successful, a Jonin can kill himself abruptly. For example, Li Yi wanted to use the Dinghaishan needle to kill the opponent with a stick, but the opponent kept using the substitute technique, so that Li Yi would never be able to hit him. How the hell is he going to hit him? Still too weak. Li Yi clenched his fist slightly and thought about it in his heart at the same time. Now I have another chance to evolve, how should I use this chance? However, just as Li was thinking about it, Violet's gentle voice suddenly sounded, "Sir, I've finished wiping." Her voice was soft, 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 as if very shy. "No, drop the word, as if." Li Yi came back to his senses. Crimson Yuhi color on Violet's face, it has spread to the base of her ears. Li Yi nodded and said, "Thank you for your hard work." Violet hurriedly shook her head. Serving adults, Violet is not hard. So, after a series of procedures, dry the body, get dressed. All handed over to Violet. Well, Li Yi was seen by Violet again. Violet's cheeks are delicate. Li Yi didn't seem to care about this kind of thing. He said lightly, go and meet those 2 ungrateful dogs." Hear this. Puff tilde. Violet covered her mouth and laughed. Although she has never been on the battlefield, she has heard of the great names of the Uchiha clan. After all, this race is too scary. And now, the man in front of him actually called those 2 Uchiha clansmen, shit. I am afraid that in this world, only the man in front of him dares to speak such madness. Li Yi glanced at the smiling Violet. Violet hurriedly stopped laughing, ran forward, and supported Li Yi. Li Yi's limbs are now weak, and he struggles to walk, so he can only walk with support. With Violet's gentle support, Li Yi walked out of the room. At the same time, in a Ning village, under a big tree, Uchiha Yangqiang and Uchiha Makoto, both of them are leaning against this big tree, closing their eyes and resting. "Makoto-san, that guy, if we don't wake up, let's go back first." Uchiha Yangqiang crossed his arms with a dog's tail grass in his mouth, and asked inarticulately. He felt that holding a piece of grass in his mouth was very handsome and cool. But he overlooked one point, the grass in his mouth would cause slurred speech. Uchiha Makoto shook his head gently. "Let's wait for him to wake up, it's not far from Konoha village anyway." "Sister Makoto, how are you recovering?" Uchiha Yangqiang pretended to be concerned and asked. Uchiha Makoto replied, "It's almost recovered. How about you?" Uchiha Yangqiang replied, "I'm almost recovering too. It's been about 3 days since we came back. During these 3 days, my injuries have been healed. I can carry out the following steps with you. A mission." Uchiha Makoto shook his head lightly. "I don't want to carry out the task for the time being." "Huh?" Uchiha Yangqiang immediately opened his mouth and asked incredulously, "Makoto sister, why, is this thing scaring you?" Uchiha Yonchiang likes Uchiha Makoto, so he has been on missions with Uchiha Makoto. He is not stupid, he knows the truth of, long time begets love. Although there are many geniuses and strong people in the Uchiha family, they also like Uchiha Makoto, such as Uchiha Fugaku, but they can't stay with Uchiha Makoto all day long, but they can stick to her all the time. Love over time is your advantage. Uchiha Yonchiang did not want to give up this advantage. But now, Uchiha Makoto told him that she didn't want to carry out the mission for the time being. The world asks for silver tickets. Chapter 59 Uchiha Makoto's Dilemma Part 2. Uchiha Yonchiang felt that Uchiha Makoto must have been frightened, so he said that. Therefore, he patted his chest and comforted, "Sister Makoto, don't be afraid, don't worry, as long as I'm here, I won't put you in danger. If someone wants to touch you, then they must first get rid of my corpse. Step over, I, Uchiha Yonchiang, vouch for this with my life." Quote. Hear this. Uchiha Makoto turned his head and glanced at Uchiha Yonchiang lightly. There seemed to be some disdain in his eyes. Uchiha Yonchiang said this before he was caught by the Land of Rain, she might believe it. But now, even killing her, she wouldn't believe it. You must know that when he was discovered by the Land of Rain, Uchiha Yonchiang ran very fast. However, Uchiha Makoto didn't intend to expose his shortcomings, she just shook her head lightly and said, "I'm not afraid." "Then who are you?" Uchiha Yonchiang blinked, looking curious. "I want to investigate the identity of that person." Uchiha Makoto said. "That person, who?" Uchiha Yonchiang blinked, and asked in confusion. Uchiha Makoto turned his head again and gave Uchiha Yonchiang a light look. That kind of gaze seems to be saying, "How can I carry out a mission with a fool like you?" Uchiha Makoto sighed and explained, "Our savior." "Huh, what are you investigating him for?" Uchiha Yonchiang opened his mouth and asked, "Is there anything suspicious about him?" "Of course there is." Uchiha Makoto tapped his head. "First of all, who in Konoha village would transfer this kind of ninjutsu?" "I don't know." Uchiha Yonchiang shook his head seriously. "I don't know either." Uchiha Makoto went on to say, "Since we don't know, it means that there are no people who can move this kind of ninjutsu. Even if there are, they are very few." "So what?" Uchiha Yonchiang tilted his head and asked curiously. Uchiha Makoto turned his head again and gave Uchiha Yonchiang a light look. She sighed lightly. "This guy is so stupid. Completely incompatible with myself. Really don't understand, Lord Hokage of the third generation, why do you want to give me this kind of stupid stuff and form a team with me? 3 generations of Hokage-sama clearly said before that I, Uchiha Makoto, are a ninja who is cautious, careful, prudent, strong in thinking, and thorough in analyzing problems. And those who are suitable for teaming up with me, even if they are not as cautious as me, can't be such a fool, right?" Uchiha Makoto had no choice but to explain. "The ninjutsu of space transfer is very powerful. No, it should be said to be extremely powerful, and our savior actually uses this ninjutsu. This shows that our savior is very powerful." Uchiha Yonchiang echoed the Tao. "Indeed." Uchiha Makoto nodded lightly, suddenly changed the subject, and asked, "But, have you heard the name Yila before?" "No." Uchiha Yonchiang shook his head flatly. "That's very strange." Uchiha Makoto said. "I don't think there's anything strange about it." Uchiha Yonchiang retorted. "It is precisely because he has the powerful ability of space transfer that he will be hidden. Neither let us know, nor let the people of the enemy country know. Once the war breaks out again, then this kind of person will be hidden. It will become the trump card of our country of fire. Makoto sister, you have been in Anbu before, you should know that there are many such people in our Konoha village." Hearing this, Uchiha Makoto turned his head again and glanced at Uchiha Yonchiang. There was a little surprise in his eyes. It seems that this guy doesn't seem to be too stupid. However, Uchiha Makoto shook his head again and said, "It is because I have stayed in Anbu before, so I have checked the archives of everyone in the village, including ordinary people. However, no one is called Yila. Uchiha Makoto has already said this for the sake of it. No matter how stupid Uchiha Yonchiang is, he will understand." He took a deep breath and asked, "Makoto's sister, you mean, Ilita, is not from our Konoha village?" "It's quite possible." Uchiha Makoto nodded lightly and said, "So, I want to investigate him. He sneaked into Konoha village. Is he a spy of the enemy country, or something else? All in all, I can't let a suspicious person cause harm to Konoha village." "So it is." Uchiha Yonchiang nodded. "If that's the case, then, Sister Makoto, please allow me to investigate this man with you." "No." Uchiha Makoto immediately shook his head without thinking. "Why?" Uchiha Yonchiang asked. "Is it because I'm too stupid, so Makoto-san, you dislike me?" As soon as these words came out, Uchiha Makoto turned his head and glanced at Uchiha Yonchiang lightly. This guy is very self-aware. However, in the end, Uchiha Makoto coughed lightly and said, "You are very smart. I don't dislike you, I just think that a talent like you shouldn't be wasted on such trivial matters. Sister Makoto, the things you are looking at are not trivial." Uchiha Yonchiang likes Uchiha Makoto, and of course he will not miss the opportunity to work with her, so he said seriously, "It is my honor to be able to perform tasks with Makoto's sister. I hope you can agree to my request. Makoto's sister, let me with you, investigate Yila, a man who does not exist on the archives." Uchiha Yonchiang has a sincere tone and a heart of fist. Uchiha Makoto was speechless. She really didn't want to continue her mission with this man. This man is completely inconsistent with her ideal partner. However, for a while, she couldn't think of rejecting Uchiha Yonchiang's words. After all, his attitude is too sincere. So, Uchiha Makoto was caught in a dilemma. She was very embarrassed, hesitating, not knowing what to say. But at this moment, a male voice suddenly sounded from behind her. "I made up the name Yila, so of course he doesn't exist." The voice was rather young, but it was weak and sounded very weak. Both Uchiha turned their heads to look. Lee Yi, who was supported by Violet. "You made it up. What do you mean?" Uchiha Makoto looked at Lee Yi, who was walking in front of him. Lu Mei frowned slightly and asked. "It means." Lee Yi smiled and said, "My name is not Yila, my name is Lee Yi." Hearing the words, Lee Yi, Uchiha Makoto immediately narrowed her eyes, her beautiful eyes flickering with light. Obviously she was reminiscing, whether there was this name in her memory. She had been in Anbu for a while, so she had seen the files of everyone in Konoha village. If the name of the man in front of her is really Lee Yi, then she must have an impression. There is one more update. Around 23:30. Well, the world continues to ask for a wave of silver tickets. Chapter 60_Hard to Eat Part 3. Uchiha Makoto narrowed his beautiful eyes slightly, staring at Lee Yi. She is thinking. After thinking for a moment, Uchiha Makoto frowned suddenly. Because she remembered. In Konoha village, there is indeed a person named Lee Yi. It's just that this Lee Yi is a piece of trash. He didn't even graduate from ninja school. Moreover, it seems that Uchiha Fugaku likes to bully the most. Uchiha Makoto said, "I was at Uchiha Fugaku and I often heard your name." As soon as this word comes out, in Lee Yi's eyes, there was a sudden flash of cruelty. Uchiha Fugaku. This woman, what kind of pot can't be lifted without opening it? So you are Lee Yi. Uchiha Makoto said, "However, since you have such a powerful ability, why don't you fight against Uchiha Fugaku?" She knew that Uchiha Fugaku often bullied him, but he never resisted. She originally thought that Lee Yi was a waste who could not practice ninjutsu or taijutsu. However, who would have thought that this waste would have the extremely powerful ability of space transfer? Regarding Uchiha Makoto's question, Li Yi shook his head slightly and said, "You should know how difficult it is for me to use the ability to shift space." "So it is." Uchiha Makoto nodded. Using the ability to transfer space once, the man in front of him was in a coma for 3 days and 4 nights. No wonder he didn't resist before. It was impossible to resist. Uchiha Makoto touched his smooth chin and said, "In fact, your ability is very powerful, but you need to practice hard, otherwise you will waste this powerful ability." "Well, I know." Li Yi nodded lightly, but then changed the subject and said, "But I have been weak since I was a child, and I have almost no chakra in my body, so I am powerless." Li Yi has already started acting. In fact, it is not difficult to use the power of devil fruit casually. As long as you exercise regularly and increase your physical strength, you can do it. However, for the next step, he acted in front of Uchiha Makoto. "So it is." Hearing Li Yi's explanation, Uchiha Makoto nodded lightly and then asked, "How many times have you used your abilities?" "Second time." Li Yi replied, "Seriously, the first time was when I was 3 or 4 years old. At that time, I used this ability unintentionally, and then I lay in bed in a coma for 7 days and 7 nights, almost dying. After that, I never used this ability again. And this time I used the ability with the determination to die. Li Yi, even if I died, I wanted to save you from the rain country." As soon as this word comes out, Uchiha Mikoto's heart moved. "In my heart, there seems to be a string that has been dormant for 20 years and has been quietly plucked." Uchiha Makoto hurriedly coughed, pretending to be serious, and said, "It turned out to be the first experience, which left a psychological shadow on you." Then, she touched her chin again and asked, "The ability of space transfer is your bloodline boundary. Do you want to continue to use this ability?" "Of course I do." Li Yi nodded. "Then I can teach you," Uchiha Makoto said. "Really?" Li Yi's eyes lit up. This expression is not fake. Because, under his inducement, Uchiha Makoto is gradually taking the bait. Uchiha Makoto nodded lightly. "However, you are from the Uchiha family, not from me. How do you teach me?" Li Yi asked deliberately. The method of using the blood continuation boundary is actually the same as the principle. Uchiha Makoto pointed to his eyes and said, "We Uchiha clan have Sharingan. You should know about this, right?" "I know." Li Yi nodded. "Just know, I won't show my eyes." Uchiha Makoto said, "Sharingan, this ability is the bloodline boundary of our Uchiha family, and your ability to transfer space is your own bloodline limit. As long as you use it diligently and practice hard, sooner or later, you will be able to easily use one's own bloodline boundaries." Speaking of this, Uchiha Makoto suddenly smiled gently, as if he had remembered something, and said, "Speaking of which, after I just started Atomo, I ran out of my chakra, and that time, I also lay in bed for 2 days. It took 2 nights to fully recover." "That's it." Li Yi pretended to understand and nodded. Uchiha Mikoto's face turned solemn and said, "As long as you are willing, I will stay with you in the days to come and accompany you to practice your bloodline boundaries. So, are you willing?" Hearing this, Li Yi's eyes lit up. Hey, fish, finally caught the bait. However, as a master of picking up girls, Li Yi also knows the truth of, play hard to escape. If he wanted to catch her, he deliberately let her go first to relax her guard. In order to achieve the purpose of further control, deliberately relax a step, this is hard to play. Therefore, Li Yi said, embarrassedly, "How can I say this? Actually, I also really want to promise you, but you are a proud girl in the sky, and I am just an ordinary person. If the two of us stay together, then, will anyone gossip? Whatever those do." Uchiha Makoto said, "It is a mediocre person not to be envied. You have such a strong bloodline, which is the blessing of our Konoha village. If you can use your bloodline skillfully, then our Konoha village will undoubtedly have one more killer. Besides, whoever said that you are ordinary people, you are my savior." There is one thing I don't want to say, but I have to say, that is, I, Uchiha Makoto, owe you my life. Uchiha Makoto's tone, very sincere. Thank you for your kindness, but... Li Yi was still hesitant. But what? Uchiha Makoto frowned and asked. But if I stay with you, then someone will come for me, Having said that, Li Yi did not continue to speak. Uchiha Makoto, how can he not hear the implication of Li Yi? Li Yi's meaning is very obvious, that is, if you stay with me, then someone will come to trouble me. After all, you have so many suitors and admirers, how can they just watch their goddess, with other men? It's really a problem. Uchiha Makoto nodded lightly, his face serious, obviously realizing the seriousness of the problem. Makoto-san, if that's the case, then forget it. Uchiha Yonchiang, whose face was ashen, suddenly opened his mouth to persuade. He has endured for a long time. No, you can't just forget about it. Uchiha Makoto shook his head flatly. Suddenly, she grabbed Li Yi's hands with a very serious expression, and said, in this way, you give me 2 weeks, and I will live with you for these 2 weeks, so that it can not only help you practice your ability, but also keep you safe.